What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 2DW Chapter 21 4 Emperors Shocked, Blood Shadow Fruit, what the hell? New World, Wano Kuni Ghost Island. Jack the Drow, who returned through the diving port, directly found Kaido who was drinking in the castle room. Kaido was quite happy with the man-made devil fruit that was originally traded. When it comes to the destruction of the factory on Dressrosa Island, it blows up. What did you say? The factory, was destroyed. Kaido was startled, and suddenly got up with an angry expression. It was Marine. Jack was a little afraid of Kaido's hideousness at the moment, and immediately said loudly. Marine? Huh, I think it's Joker waste, even the factory was destroyed. Kaido cared about the Smile factory very much and couldn't help cursing. The destruction of Smile is the key to his establishment of an army of capable users. That would greatly delay his plans. A kid from Marine who claims to be Kizaru's younger brother. Jack flinched and continued. What, children, Kizaru's younger brother? When everyone heard that a kid did it, Rao Shijin thought it was not an easy matter, and was a little surprised and annoyed. Doflamingo. Dot was tricked by a child. This is not an ordinary kid, not to mention that he is Kizaru's younger brother, his ability is also very outrageous. It is to use blood to create powerful blood shadows, which is almost a 100% replica of the Blood Master's strength. Marine Vice Admiral Momousagi Tifish, including the blood that I bleed after I was injured, was made into blood shadows by him. The factory is these blood shadows to blow it up. Afterwards, Jack told the whole story, including the battle during the period, one by one. Creating manipulation. Blood shadow, still almost 100% strength? The people present were shocked when they heard this. Kaido, Jin, and Quinn were no exception, their brows frowned and their expressions became serious. Blood shadow? I've never heard of such an ability. That's right, Jack, are you sure? It can't be some technological weapon, right? Quinn's expression changed, and he was very shocked. Regarding the ability, he believed that it was an illusion caused by some kind of technology. But Jack patted his chest and assured, we have been fighting with that little ghost's blood shadow for a long time, and we have seen it with our own eyes, and we will be injured by it. It is absolutely unmistakable, and the little ghost named Shaen En personally admitted that it is his blood shadow fruit ability. Moreover, the blood shadow will be reborn. The Joker group kills it many times and it will be resurrected in an instant. Originally, I heard Jack the Drow so assured that it was true. Everyone, including Kaido, was surprised, their faces changed, and they were even more shocked when they finally heard that the blood shadow could still be resurrected. A little ghost actually has such a powerful ability on his body. A blood shadow that reproduces the strength 100% can be resurrected infinitely. Kaido opened his eyes round, a little curious and fear flashed at the same time. Jin, Quinn, and the following cadres are all like this. If you think about it a little bit, you can see how pervert such an ability is to Marine. Let's say 3 admirals. Right now, according to what the drought said, Kizaru's blood shadow has been created, with the strength of Admiral. If Aokiji and Akainu are also created, it will also be an unimaginable increase in combat power for the 4 Emperor's forces. A kid who is 7 or 8 years old has such a powerful power, pay close attention to him. Kaido took a deep breath, picked up the jug and drank it down. At this moment, his heart was extremely uneasy, and he was even a little jealous. Another incredible monster appeared in Marine. Yes, Master Kaido. Jin immediately bowed and accepted the order. I thought that I must get rid of such a threat if I have the opportunity, otherwise with Shaen En's age and ability, she will definitely become a more troublesome existence than Admiral Pooh in the future. Just at this time, there were footsteps outside the door, it was a real man coming with news. Kaido-sama. Big news, explain. Seeing that Kaido looked a little ugly, Genda quickly said. A month ago, there was news about a traitor in the Whitebeard pirates. Master Kaido, the news is definitely true. The captain of Whitebeard's 4th team was killed, and the traitor's name was Marshal D. Teach. Ha ha ha, just make sure. That old man Whitebeard, who has followed the rules all his life, was betrayed by the crew at his old age. How happy it is. Come here, serve me more wine. After hearing this, Kaido's gloomy mood improved and he became excited. Although the destruction of the factory is very unfavorable, we can only wait for Doflamingo to re-establish it. As for the shocking marine child Shaen En, Kaido still needs to wait for an opportunity. As for Jin, after Kaido called for drinks, he walked out of the door sensibly and began to make arrangements to investigate Kizaru's younger brother. Compared with Wanakuna's news, which was lagging behind, another 4 Emperors Big Mom had already learned the news that the Whitebeard pirates had encountered a traitor and the corps captain had been killed. But it was also within a similar period of time that the investigators sent out to investigate determined the authenticity of the news. And also learned the name of the traitor, Marshal D. Teach. Well, that old man Whitebeard, if you take someone as his son, you'll be fine now. I have told him a long time ago that only family members who are connected by blood can be relied on. Big Mom laughed loudly when he found out. You can completely imagine how big a blow this was to Whitebeard. and at the same time he is very satisfied with his current sons and daughters. If nothing else, at least they wouldn't betray themselves like this. Of course, Mom, you are the only overlord of the sea in the future. Perospero smiled brightly, stretched out his tongue, and said flatteringly. Then let's have a party, kids. Well, we have to have fun. Big Mom waved his hand and immediately made arrangements. Perospero and the others bowed to receive the order. As a result, Katakuri rushed over in a hurry and said directly when they met, Mom, something happened on Dressrosa Island. There's a problem at the Smile Factory. It was Marine led by Momousagi who did it. When everyone heard this, the ministers all looked at each other in confusion. Can Marine cause trouble in Joker's territory? Big Mom's smile froze on his face, and his eyes became more confused. Can Momousagi deal with Joker? Doflamingo is a middleman in the underground world, and Big Mom even invested in his jaunization experiment in Punk Hazard, so it seems impossible to know the details of Doflamingo no matter how hard you listen. The alternate admiral is capable, but why do you say it's the Joker's territory? Katakuri, what's going on? Big Mom asked seriously. Katakuri then raised his eyebrows and said, Mom, there is indeed someone else who took action. After investigation, I found that the person who followed Momousagi and took action was actually Kizaru's younger brother, an 8-year-old boy, Shaen En. Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time, August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 22 Marine has an 8-year-old monster, Kizaru's younger brother, 8 years old. What are you kidding? 8 years old? How can a kid with no hair grow beat Doflamingo? Katakuri, is the information distorted? Perospero, Daifuku and these ministers were suddenly in an uproar. This news is really incredible. However, at this moment, Katakuri had been looking at Big Mom with a surprised expression, and said seriously, Mom, this is the news after I confirm it. What happened on Dressrosa Island is not a secret, and there are even many witnesses at the scene. Kizaru's younger brother is not an ordinary kid, but has the ability of Blood Shadow Fruit, the ability to create shadows with blood, almost 100% restore the strength of the person who reproduced his blood. The Joker failed precisely because Shaen En controlled a blood shadow of Kizaru, with admiral level strength, not only copied the ability of Sparkling Fruit, but other blood shadows under him even showed the characteristics of infinite resurrection. Katakuri's voice echoed in the hall. Following the beginning of the first sentence, the dozens of ministers present had already fallen into silence, and in the end they widened their eyes in shock. All of them looked in disbelief. In the world? Is there really such an unreasonable ability in the world? Shaping blood shadows, restoring strength, and even mastering admiral-level blood shadows, this. No wonder the Joker failed. Shaen En. This guy is not a brat, he's a little monster. No, what's even more frightening is that he is still so young. Isn't it true that in the near future, Marine's highest combat power will be doubled? The more I thought about it, the more terrifying it became. The core members of the Big Mom pirates present were so shocked that they couldn't help swallowing their throats after saying a word. I've never heard of such a bug ability, but the facts are in front of them. Katakuri will not release such uncertain things. Even the Queen Big Mom couldn't help the trembling of her pupils. She didn't expect that Joker's failure was caused by an 8-year-old little monster. Afterwards, her complexion couldn't help but gloomy, and she slapped her big palm on the armrest of the seat, and couldn't help but yelled. Look at his brother, look at you. Adding such a little monster to Marine will undoubtedly make it even more powerful, and it will even be the toughest opponent in the future. Katakuri, since you first learned of this person's existence, keep an eye on him, if you have the chance. After all this, Big Mom didn't have any interest in having a party, so after giving Katakuri orders, he left alone. Just heard about the betrayal of Whitebeard's family, happy that his sons and daughters are all firmly bound by blood, and finally heard such news. So when she left, she was still a little annoyed. At this time, the traitor incident of the Whitebeard pirates was completely fermented, and many big pirates had already confirmed that it was true. The surface of the sea was rippling slowly, and the sun reflected a golden color. The huge red force is moving forward with the wind in this sea area. Shanks is sitting on a cargo box on the deck, holding a phone bug in one arm and talking to the Whitebeard pirates, one of the 4 emperors. As early as a month ago, after Shanks learned of the traitor incident, he sent a letter to Whitebeard. As expected, Whitebeard shrugged it off and tore up the letter. Afterwards, the news quickly spread to the whole world, and the influence became bigger and bigger. After all, it was a traitor incident that happened to the most powerful man in the world, and countless people's eyes were focused on it. Tichu did this. Shanks was very jealous, and knew that it would not be that simple for this guy to betray Whitebeard. The premonition was so bad that Shanks could only call Whitebeard himself now. When the captain of the Whitebeard pirates handed the phone bug to Whitebeard himself, the first thing Shanks said was, Whitebeard, let's meet. Gu la la la. Okay, I'm sure. The two of them don't communicate too much on the phone, it's simple and clear. He was about to hang up the phone, but at this moment, one of Shanks' subordinates hurried over and shouted that something big had happened. I'm so worried, what happened? Shanks couldn't help but ask confused when he saw this. He didn't blame his subordinates for coming in directly, but he was worried that something important had happened. The boss is Doflamingo. Something big happened on Dressrosa Island. His hidden factory was destroyed. Factory. Shanks, Whitebeard, who heard it through the phone bug, and their cadre captains were not interested in Doflamingo's affairs. They didn't know much about the factory, mainly because they had inquired about it through Kaido and Big Mom. If that factory is destroyed, it will be destroyed. It is a good thing. Shanks nodded to show that he understood. But then, the subordinate said, "Boss, that factory was done by Marine. The factory built by Shichibukai behind the scenes was destroyed by Marine, and the ability users who took action were very weird, using clones to fight. One by one, they returned extraordinarily powerful." Obviously this news did not come from Don Quixote's cadres, and there was no details about Big Mom and Kaido. But Marine's action and the ability to use a clone like Fruit were enough to surprise both red-haired Shanks and Whitebeard. It seems that the Fruit's ability to create clones is not much, and it is also extremely powerful. Shanks frowned and thought, but he didn't expect to have such ability. So he then asked, "What else? Report to the boss." "No, no more." "Is that so? It seems that this matter needs to be investigated thoroughly. Who is that ability user and what is his specific ability?" The red-haired Shanks immediately gave him instructions. "Yes, boss." The subordinates followed the order and left. Others, such as Usopp, Rikiru and other cadres, also looked thoughtful. The ability to fight separately, and Marine actually attacked Shichibukai. It seems that there is more to it than what it seems. At this time, Beckman's eyes narrowed slightly, and he became very curious about this matter. "Let's wait until the matter is investigated." Shanks glanced at the phone bug in his hand, put it down and hung up, while saying. But at this time, on the other side of the phone bug, Marco, Beasta and other captains also attached great importance to Marine's actions. Especially since there was a strange ability user, I also wanted to investigate clearly. Although they didn't say much, at this moment, both sides began to pay attention, and they both realized that there seemed to be another terrible guy on Marine's side. Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time, August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 23. With this lineup, do I still need to keep a low profile? True and false Kizaru fight. After a few days, Marineford's Crescent Port, Shaen En and Momousagi return. From afar, I saw Marshal Sengoku, Garp and 3 admirals, Kizaru, Akainu and Aokiji, personally greeting him at the port. They were flattered. "Such a big battle, brother Shaen, sister, I can enjoy high treatment thanks to you." Momousagi saw this scene and joked, "I didn't expect that they all came out to greet me." Shaen chuckled and scratched his head. As everyone knows, the Doflamingo incident has always been a thorn in the hearts of Sengoku and others. Now Shaen has won a great victory, completed the task, and showed absolute talent and ability. It is no big deal to welcome him in person. There were also many Marine soldiers around. They had heard about Kizaru's younger brother Shaen and had completed extremely difficult missions, so they all came to see his true face. As soon as the warship docked, there was a burst of cheers. Momousagi held Shaen's little hand, stepped off the warship, and met Sengoku, San Admiral and others. Behind him were 4 figures in brown cloaks, following Shaen like loyal guards. Sengoku and others took a look and immediately said with smiles, "Welcome back." Momousagi and Shaen quickly chatted with him, said hello to Garp, Kizaru, Aokiji, and Akainu, and then walked towards the fortress. The surrounding Marine soldiers looked on with envy. "Whenever I complete a task of this difficulty, the Marshal will surely come to greet me." "What are you thinking? Kizaru Admiral's younger brother is a genius, aren't you? By the way, what's going on with the cloaked man following him? He didn't say who he is. It always feels very familiar." Amidst the discussion among the Marines, Shaen followed Sengoku and others and finally returned to the Marshal's office on the top floor of the fortress. Now only the senior executives were left. Seeing their expectant looks, Shaen took off the Blood Shadow's cloak and revealed his true appearance. Aokiji had never seen anyone before, but seeing it now was believing, and he was immediately amazed. "It's really amazing, the Blood Shadow created by this ability." The appearance of the 4 Blood Shadows is almost the same as the original owner, and they all give people the feeling of being very powerful. Sengoku, Granny He, Garp, Akainu, and Kizaru looked at the 2 new Blood Shadows. The Drought and the Blood Shadow of Kizaru made me marvel again and again. This is Jack the Drow, a rare ancient ability user. Shaen, Blood Shadow not only has his strength, but the shortcomings can also be found in Blood Shadow. Garp looked up and down, touched it lightly with his fingers a few times, and sighed in admiration. Who would have thought that with this bit of blood, one could create an exact shadow, even the enemies? It could be used as a fighting force, and it could also be used to study the enemy. Mr. Garp, this has to be said to be amazing. Aokiji was also very surprised. It has to be my brother. Kizaru was even more happy and proud. He was very pleased that his brother was so outstanding. At the same time, Kizaru also looked at the dark red version of himself, feeling really strange about facing himself. Shaen En did a great job this time. Not only did he destroy the factory and make Doflamingo afraid to speak, but his participation in the conflict also improved his capabilities. The admiration in Akainu's eyes was even greater, and he was thinking about how to persuade Kizaru to teach Shaen En personally. Yes, Shaen En, you have made great achievements this time and let us see your potential clearly. Sengoku looked at the Admiral-level Blood Shadow and nodded happily. The combat power of the Admiral class is particularly important to the Marines. One can be as powerful as several Shichibukai. It is the high-end combat power that will destroy pirates and annihilate the 4 emperors in the future. And looking at the potential, as long as Shaen En progresses, it won't be a problem to continue to create Admiral-level Blood Shadows. Shaen En was a little embarrassed when she couldn't stop listening to the praise, but when she said this, she immediately reached out to Sengoku and asked for it. Mr. Sengoku, I still need blood to make progress. This is not embarrassing, it is a condition, and it is also what Shaen En needs most at the moment. Ha ha ha, Sengoku was delighted to hear this. He immediately turned around and took out a wooden box containing several sealed jars from under his desk and handed it to Shaen En. It's already been prepared. These jars and containers contain exactly the blood that was promised to Shaen En in the first place. There are also Aokijis, Akainus, and even Garps. Shaen En took it with bright eyes and held it in her arms, excited in her heart. Great! With this blood, there will be no shortage of blood to create powerful dead soldiers. Except, of course, as specified by the mission. At this time, Kizaru saw that Shaen En was about to be praised to the heavens. He stopped his smile and reminded him seriously. Brother, although this mission was successful, the process was not appropriate and too high profile. You have to know that the power of the Blood Shadow fruit is so powerful that you actually leaked it directly without hiding the power. When necessary, forbearance is needed, especially when it is not strong enough. Kizaru is not wrong to think so. After all, this is his biological brother. No one else mentioned it, but he had to be good for his younger brother, so he sounded a little blaming. Hearing this, the Marine executives present also calmed down and nodded to Shaen En. They also believe that there will be great risks if Shaen En's ability is exposed early. Shaen En will naturally not be unhappy. These people, especially her brother, are serious reminders for her own good. This is also an ideological gap. As a time traveler, why doesn't Shaen En know the truth? Brother, I understand. But, with 3 powerful men in hand plus your strength to protect you, do you still need to keep a low profile? Pointing to the blood shadow behind her, Shaen En said unruly. Forget it when you were really weak, but now, hiding something, still disdainful. You kid, don't know that the sky is high and the earth is high. Kizaru looked at Shaen En's confident eyes, and his serious expression suddenly collapsed, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't listen to what I said at all. Akainu, Aokiji, Sengoku and others looked at Shaen En's confidence with some surprise. At this time, Shaen En said with a smile. That's not true. I am very aware of the dangers of this world, but I have to believe in myself. Well, why don't you, brother, compare yourself with your own shadow and see how strong your brother's blood shadow ability is? Real and fake Kizaru compete. It was interesting. Garp and Aokiji were excited to watch the excitement and said, good, repeatedly. Sengoku and Granny he looked at the 2 brothers helplessly. Kizaru raised his eyebrows and was about to say forget it, but refused directly. Just kidding, I usually don't have time to fish, so I'm too lazy to do anything. As a result, before he could say anything, under Shaen En's somewhat mean expression, Kizaru Blood Shadow took action. Filu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time, August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 24 The conditions are met, the 2 emperors come into contact, and it's a good opportunity to grab the territory. The light does not stir the air, but when the red light of the blood shadow gathers around Kizaru, it will cause some tremors. Lift your legs, turn around and sweep. This is the exact same sidekick as Kizaru. You really do it. Kizaru observation Haki felt the movement of his blood shadow, thinking helplessly in his heart, and his body moved accordingly. In the same side-kicking posture, the 2 sides collided with each other, making a dull sound that made the huge office tremble. Don't be anxious if you want to fight. Looking at the smiling Shaen En speechlessly, Kizaru turned into yellow light the next moment and rushed out of the window. The blood shadow turned into red light and followed closely behind. The 2 sides stood directly on top of the building below, facing each other. After all, this is Admiral-level combat power. It's hard to say whether blood shadow can be 100% reproduced, but we can clearly see the difference after a fight. Akainu, Aokiji and even Garp and Sengoku were very interested and went to the corridor to watch outside. At this moment, Kizaru and the blood shadow turned into light almost at the same time and met in midair. With the legs that dodged, they had exactly the same attacking posture, and they collided with each other powerfully. Lightspeed kick. Bang! A dazzling light immediately exploded in the sky. Such a big movement attracted the Marine soldiers below. When they looked up, they were all shocked. After the lightspeed kick collision, there was a shining close combat showdown between the 2 sides. Look, it's Kizaru Admiral. Who is he fighting against? How can he actually fight against Admiral? No, that figure is using the sparkling fruit ability. How is that possible? Such a scene would make Marineford's Marine stunned, but at this time, they didn't know Shaw En's Blood Shadow warrior. The fight has already begun, and Kizaru also intends to further test the Blood Shadow's fighting power, and his moves are very fierce. What I didn't expect was that Xia En didn't fall behind at all. Even the strength, angle, and moves are all the same as mine. The physical battle between the two sides was extremely exciting. Sengoku, Garp, Akainu, Aokiji, including some vice admirals could clearly see the battle between Kizaru and the Blood Shadow, and they all marveled. Paluzolino's physical skills are still not advanced enough, but the level is not comparable to that of ordinary people. I didn't expect that the Blood Shadows are really the same. Garp watched with wide eyes, thinking secretly in his heart. Hiss. It's really the same, it's obviously two people fighting, but it's like looking in the mirror. Aokiji gasped when he witnessed the Blood Shadow battle for the first time. The synchronized movements of both sides are fighting, which is really unimaginable if you haven't seen it with your own eyes. This shows that Blood Shadow has the same fighting consciousness, physique, and reactions as Kizaru. Even the timing of using abilities is the same. Akainu looked solemn and spoke clearly. They are all exactly the same. This is the terrifying thing about the Blood Shadow fruit. At this time, Kizaru even started to use Sparkling Fruit's various moves. In addition to large-scale moves such as the 8-foot Magatama, he also used light-speed kicks, laser beams, etc. without fail. As a result, the same is true for the Blood Shadow on the opposite side. The two Sparkling Fruit abilities cause big explosions in the air, and some even hit the distant sea, causing huge waves. Everyone, whether it was Marine below or Sengoku, Garp and others above the attic, they were all in awe. This ability is a bit outrageous. Garp's imagination was so amazing that he even thought that after he retired, Shaw En could still use his Blood Shadow to continue playing for Marine. It seems that there is really no need to keep a low profile. Aokiji turned to look at Shaw En, thinking that this kind of ability is even more pervert than Logia's in Marine. And with the protection of the Blood Shadow Admiral, there really is no need to keep a low profile. After all, the Celestial Dragons are the only ones in this world who are protected by the Admiral. The major forces surrender to the Celestial Dragon's power because if they are disturbed, the Admiral will take action. This shows how terrifying Marine Admiral is in the hearts of the world. At this time, everyone's eyes were wandering around the battle place and Shaw En. Shaw En was smiling, waiting for brother Kizaru to surrender. Sure enough, after seeing the Blood Shadow completely replicating his own strength, Kizaru also knew that there would be no results if he continued to fight, and finally raised his hands and surrendered. No fight, I admit defeat. He looked helplessly at Shaw En. Afterwards, Shaw En decisively asked Xia En to come back and grinned in the eyes of everyone in amazement. Of course, the joy is not due to showing strength. That's because Shaw En didn't just sit around and let Xia En and Kizaru fight for everyone to watch. In fact, it was to complete the task. The moment Kizaru gives in, he has completed one of his growth tasks. Use the Death Warrior to defeat Admiral level or above characters. Close black lens bracket finish. Nice. The only remaining condition is to occupy the Four Emperors' territory. But the next step is more difficult for Shaw En and takes more time. So, when everyone returned to the office happily, they began to discuss how to deal with the Four Emperors next. Since Shaw En can control Admiral-level combat power, Sengoku and other senior officials did not shy away from Shaw En, and even did not treat her as a child. Shaw En asked, "Brother, which of the Four Emperors has the most territory?" After hearing this question, Kizaru smiled. Of course, Whitebeard. Whitebeard is a strong man from the old era. He is known as the strongest man in the world. He also has the most men and territory. Therefore, Shaw En, if you encounter him in the mission, it is best to evacuate directly. Speaking of this, Sengoku also reminded Shaw En. Yes, Whitebeard is very scary. Secondly, the beasts have the largest territory. Although they occupy Wano-kuni, they are never idle. Moreover, you have offended them, so be careful when you encounter them. Kizaru touched his chin and continued. Shaw En nodded obediently and listened to them continue to discuss the structure of New World. She was thinking about who to deal with first. Seizing the Four Emperors' territory and planting the Marine flag will definitely lead to their counterattack. After all, if he snatched it, the Four Emperors could also snatch it back. Shaw En thought to herself that this was considered to be the completion of the mission. At this time, a Marine soldier came over quickly to report. Marshal Sengoku, 3 admirals. The intelligence department confirmed that the Whitebeard pirates and the Red Hair pirates are preparing to formally contact and meet. 4 Emperors, a meeting of this level, whether it's a fight or a joint effort, is a very big deal. When Sengoku and other senior officials heard this, they knew that this meant that it was uncontrollable, and they all frowned. One by one, I really can't take any time off. Garp snorted and gritted his teeth. Who knows what will happen in this encounter? Mr. Sengoku, I'm going to stop them. Akainu immediately stood up and asked for help. Sengoku frowned and shook his head. It's not appropriate. Admiral is not suitable to come forward in this matter. Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time, August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 25. If they see their own, attack their territory. Admiral's appearance can easily become the trigger for war. It is very risky for the current balanced situation. Sengoku still knows the concept of 5 elders, and the result of things can easily affect the whole body. What's more, there is more than one Sea Emperor. Is it possible that they can only be contacted like this? What if? Akainu was a little displeased, and spoke again. In the end, Granny he shook her head to stop her. Sakazuki, they are going to meet. No matter how we stop it, it won't help, and it's so blatant. It's nothing more than telling us to come when they want. They are ready. Grandma he also felt that it was inappropriate for Admiral to stop her. But without Admiral, who can shake hands with 4 emperors? At the moment, we can only send a few warships casually. Sengoku didn't think about it at all, and opened his mouth to make a decision. It's just a show, a symbolic stop, so as not to be too embarrassing, and also to block the mouths of those journalists in the world. Mr. Sengoku, isn't this too hasty? Aokiji rarely sat up straight and said seriously. Not only him, even Akainu and Kizaru think so. Make a show, forget it? Is there a better way for you? Granny he calmly held the teacup and asked back. Indeed, the 3 admirals were silent, thinking it was true, but there was no good plan. Momousagi, Dolphin and others are suffering and have nothing to do. They can't stop them, so they can only act. But at this time, Shaen's eyes lit up, and he said, brothers and sisters, the real admiral is not enough, but the fake one is fine? As he spoke, he pointed to the blood shadow of Kizaru behind him. Everyone was taken aback when they heard Shaen's immature words. We don't need to directly attack Whitebeard and Red, we attack any of their territory, they see them, we hit ours, or they don't return, or we take the territory away. Anyway, the blood shadow shot, I can be resurrected after I die. This sound stunned Sengoku and the 3 admirals for a moment, and Kizaru slapped the table after they came to their senses. That's right. Even if the blood shadow died in battle, he is not really dead. On the contrary, Marine definitely has face. It must be my brother who is smart. Kizaru said in his heart that this strategy is good. Sometimes, we really can't think as fast as children, ha ha ha. Yes, Shaen's strategy is very good. Sengoku was overjoyed and affirmed Shaen's thoughts with a smile. Everyone thinks that when Marine went back to stop Whitebeard from meeting the Redhead, we just went to grab the territory. That's right, the warship we sent out pretended to block it. To put it bluntly, Shaen took the blood shadow to seize the territory. This avoided a direct war, and also lowered the vigilance of the 4 emperors. Grandma he looked at Shaen with admiration and kindness. I thought that Shaen's ability is not suitable for frontal combat, and maybe he can be trained as the next general staff officer. Therefore, Sengoku agreed to implement this plan on the spot amidst everyone's words. And also ordered someone to fetch the chart of New World, which marked the sphere of influence of the Red-Hair pirates and Whitebeard pirates. After placing the image bug on the screen, Sengoku pointed to the map and said, let's see where we should start. Granny Crane crossed her fingers, frowned and thought, too small a territory is irrelevant to the 4 emperors and won't cause much commotion, but a large one can easily cause their entire regiment to counterattack, and they will be powerless to seize it when the time comes. After all, the most powerful force in the New World is still the 4 emperors. After Granny Crane reminded them, the admirals, Momousagi and other vice-admirals were also in trouble. It's not a good choice either. Everyone pondered for a moment. After half an hour, a piece of territory belonging to the Whitebeard pirates was selected. Not too big, not too small, not enough for them to make a strong counterattack and start a war, but enough to attract the attention of the world. Alas, for the sake of so-called balance, such a powerful force is tied up. Shaen watched the meeting and couldn't help but sigh in her heart. If Marine could be completely autonomous, he might be able to go to war directly with the red-haired Whitebeard. However, after discussion, the chosen location was very much in line with Shaen's wishes. Then, the mission this time is to take over this piece of Whitebeard's territory. There are always pirates there, so be careful. Especially Shaen. If the situation goes wrong, evacuate immediately. Momousagi Vice-Admiral, you will protect Shaen throughout this time. Sengoku emphasized in the end, telling Shaen what was important. Even if the task is not completed, everyone here does not want anything serious to happen to Shaen. Yes. Marshal Sengoku. Shaen. Momousagi immediately stood up and took the order. Watching Shaen go out, Kizaru was a little worried, but he also knew that sooner or later the young eagle would fly. Start sailing. After a few days. A certain sea area in New World. A battleship of the highest standard is fully loaded with marine soldiers. Shaen and Momousagi stood at the bow of the boat, with 4 cloaked figures behind them, waiting. Report. Momousagi Vice-Admiral, Shaen Rear Admiral, news from the headquarters, Whitebeard and the red-haired 2 are in formal contact. Marine soldiers came to report the news. Very good, let's go now and seize the territory. Hearing this, Shaen decisively waved the order. The warship slowly moved forward and accelerated, approaching Whitebeard's territory. After a while, a large island was visible to the naked eye. And on the island, as soon as the warship appeared, It attracted the attention of the pirates on the island, and the alarm sounded loudly. After a while, a group of people appeared on the edge of the island, observing vigilantly with telescopes, and gathering people at the same time. And these people are the captains of the 10 large fleets under the Whitebeard pirates. The Ice Witch Huadabe, Iboida, the Great Vortex Spider, Thunder King Makugai. Each of them is a famous pirate in the New World. Momousagi, who was observing from the warship, was shocked when he saw this. There are so many strong men guarding this territory. Shaen En, the situation is not right. I think I need to retreat and change places. They are just a battleship. Although there are many people on board, there is still a gap when facing 10 large fleets. The distance is still far enough to evacuate, and the other party will not pursue you if you leave. But Shaen En is determined to win Whitebeard's territory at this moment, but it's just a large fleet under his command, and it's not qualified enough to make him retreat. This island is still very important to Whitebeard and his pirate group. It's not surprising that there are so many people, so we won't change it, Sister Momousagi, let's attack it. Saying that, Shaen En raised her hand, and the 3 blood shadows immediately stepped forward. Momousagi originally wanted to stop him, but he hesitated when he saw the blood shadow, thinking that Shaen En was the commander, so listened to him. Shaen En simply put down the boat, as there was still some distance from the island, and let the 3 blood shadows take the lead to open the way. This territory today must be mine. Filu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time, August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 26 Red Hair. Could Kizaru's brother do it? The other party is coming. Is it a small boat? Looking like that, it doesn't look like we're here to chat. What should we do? 3 people just want to come in? That's unreasonable. HMPH, what else can you say about Marine who came in a battleship? Sink them. Whitebeard, Big Eddie Spider and other 10 captains used binoculars to look at the 3 people coming on the boat, feeling a little funny. But it was obvious that the person who came here was ill-intentioned, so he immediately decided to sink it during the conversation. Given order. The artillery on the island and the muzzles on the pirate ship turned around and aimed at the small boat rushing ahead. Boom. With the sound of a cannon, 3 black bombs were launched and fell towards the boat. However, this little trouble is not a trouble at all to the 3 blood shadows. The long sword in Momosagi's blood shadow's hand flashed through the sword light, and the cannonball still in midair exploded in 2 halves. When the pirates saw that the other party could easily block it, they then fired dozens of cannonballs to bombard it. At this time, Momosagi's blood shadow disappeared on the ship, and when he reappeared, he was already in midair, slashing with his long sword. A brilliant sword light flashed. In an instant, all the artillery shells exploded in midair, filling the air with smoke. The opponent is a swordsman. Get ready to fight. The Great Vortex Spider saw that the people on the boat were not simple, and were stronger than imagined, so he immediately reminded all the pirates. At the same time, the distance of the small boat has reached a point where it can be observed without a telescope, but the people on it disappeared in place. They've arrived. Whitebeard saw 3 cloaked men disappearing into the boat, and then 3 black figures quickly approached the shore in the air. As soon as I finished speaking, I saw 3 people missing from the group of pirates on the shore. One is unusually tall, one is tall, and the other is short and fat. Hidden under the cloak, one cannot see his true face. Without saying a word, Shui Ying, who followed Shaen En's instructions, immediately started killing people. The long sword was swung, and the sword energy slashed fiercely at the pirates on all sides, opening a gap in an instant. The blood shadow of Drought and the blood shadow of T-Dolphin each go in the same direction, and they are like a pirate with one sword. The assembled pirates were frightened and broke out in cold sweat. The faces of the captains such as the Great Vortex Spider and the Ice Witch Huadabe changed drastically. This is Marine. Why are you even more ferocious than the pirates? Moreover, the pirates they attacked were all elites among the top 10 fleets. What are you doing stupidly? Kill. Upon seeing this, the Great Vortex Spider immediately roared and launched a counterattack. He even took a knife and ran towards Drought Blood Shadow to stop him. Whitebeard and other captains also took action, falling into the 3 cloaked men and besieging them. Who are you from Marine? As soon as the swords clashed, sparks flew everywhere. Feeling the strong power of the other party, Whitebeard couldn't help being frightened, and asked repeatedly. The Blood Shadow couldn't speak. What she responded to was the T-Dolphin Blood Shadow's sword slashes one after another. If you don't say anything, then kill them all. Makugai twirled his beard and said coldly. In his hands, he cooperated with Whitebeard to completely block the blood shadow of the T-Dolphin. For a time, the addition of the 10 captains successfully suppressed the 3 blood shadows and made them surrounded. I have never heard of such a strong person among the Marines. Who are they? During the battle, the 10 captains could only suppress it for a short time, but they were unable to capture it, which made them surprised. But at this time, another small boat approached quickly on the sea, and there was only one person on it. Their support is coming. If you want to rely on 4 people, you want to break through us? No. Why didn't Marine's battleship move? Whitebeard, the captains of the Eddie Spider thought that the person who came here was probably only a strong man of the same level, but it was strange that there was no one wearing a Marine uniform. And the Marine battleship remained silent. You deal with these three, I'll deal with the new one. When Lei Ching Makugai saw this, he wanted to stop him alone, and let his companions deal with these silent cloaked men first. As a result, at this time, the cloaked figure on the boat disappeared in place. When it reappeared, it was already a bright light in the sky. The blood-red flash reflected on the faces of the pirates, and immediately turned into little clusters of light, as if the Maxim machine guns were firing, making everyone unable to restrain their expressions of astonishment. No, impossible. It's Bachi Chonguyu. That's Kizaru. Marine Admiral Kizaru dispatched himself. How come? Don't stand still. Run. As pirates of the New World, they have fought against the 4 emperors against Marine Admiral all year round, and they immediately recognized the ability of sparkling fruit. In an instant, when everyone was shocked, they quickly avoided, and even the 10 captains were terrified. Admiral, it's not something their 10 pirates can deal with. Boom. Following the first shot of the 8-foot Chonguyu, it fell to the ground. In an instant, the pirates on the shore were blown away, followed by a terrifying cover bombardment. Originally besieged, the methodical pirates were in a mess, trying to save their lives. After Whitebeard hurriedly escaped from the coverage area, in cold sweat and horror, he hurriedly pulled out the phone bug to contact Whitebeard. And at this time, Whitebeard and the red-haired Shanks were sitting on Moby Dick, pouring wine and talking about Blackbeard. Marco on the second ship heard the phone bug and picked it up. I'm Marco. There was a lot of movement from the opposite side and Whitey Bay's anxious and panicked voice. Marco. Our territory is attacked by Marine. We need support. What? Marine? Take it easy, Whitey Bay. Marco was a little disapproving at first. Marine? Didn't Marine send someone to stop them before they came, but then left with a pretense, and now that the territory is under attack, it should be a pretense too. Marco. I'm not kidding you. It's the 3 cloaked men and Kizaru. Upon hearing this tone, Whitey Bay immediately roared seriously. Kizaru. I get it. Hold on. Marco was taken aback, changed his previous attitude, and responded immediately. Admiral went out in person, which was different from Marine's feigned attack. As for the cloaked man, he subconsciously ignored Admiral's name. The surrounding captains could also hear it, and they immediately frowned, asking whether Marine is going to war. Immediately, the others began to prepare to turn the bow, and Marco informed Whitebeard of the matter. Kizaru is going to attack my territory. Marco, you use the auxiliary ship to return quickly. Whitebeard was surprised, and ordered on the spot while his expression changed. Marine, dare to go to New World to make serious provocations. Red-haired Shanks also heard Kizaru attacking Whitebeard's territory from the side, and was surprised but also thought of a person. Kizaru led someone to attack your territory. Could it be his brother? Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time. August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 27 Blood Shadow of Immune to Death. The captain's mentality collapsed. Brother Kizaru? That Blood Shadow fruit ability user? Everyone's expressions changed after hearing the words, and they looked at the guessing Shanks in surprise. Kizaru's younger brother, Shaen En, Whitebeard suddenly realized who Shanks was talking about. In the past few days, Whitebeard and the Red Hair have actually investigated carefully and found out Shaen's astonishing ability. And the fact that Heavenly Yaksha, one of the Shichibukai, can suffer a big loss at the age of 8, is not underestimated by the 2 major pirate groups. In that case, I'll go back and see for myself. Thinking about it, Whitebeard also became interested, and ordered the Mobity to return. During the period, he looked at the red-haired Shanks, indicating that today's unpleasant conversation is over. It's just that Shanks now looks a little thoughtful, and then said, I'll walk with you. Are you coming with us? Marco, Beasta, Yizang, Bramank and other teammates were a little dissatisfied. You are really familiar. You have to know seriously, your red hair is the enemy. It's just that the situation was urgent at this time, and Whitebeard waved his hand to express his indifference, so everyone didn't say much. Instead, Shanks shouted to Red Force not far away, something happened to Whitebeard's sight, I'll go and have a look. After finishing speaking, Whitebeard's main ship and auxiliary ship both sailed and moved. Usopp, Lakiru and others were still worried about whether the two would fight, but the boss turned around and yelled such a sentence, confused. Hey, something happened to Whitebeard's sight. What is the boss doing with the past? Hey, can't you be hijacked? You're blind. Shanks looks like a kidnapper. Everyone in the Red Hair Pirates muttered, follow up. At this time, only Marine is the one doing it, and Shanks is interested in it. It may not be easy. At this time, Beckman let the crew also set sail. Marine. Thinking about it, what does the boss want to see? When they heard that it was Marine, or that they were causing trouble during the meeting of the 2 emperors of the sea, they couldn't help being curious, and wanted to meet them. However, at this time, on the Warring Islands, Xia En, who was watching the Blood Shadow battle with Momousagi with a telescope, didn't know that Whitebeard and the Red Hair were rushing back at full speed, full of enthusiasm. Continue to fight, and it is only a matter of time before we win this territory. Momousagi is happy to see it, and it is cool to have blood shadows. It doesn't cost a single soldier, just 4 blood shadows can control the battlefield, and the pirates still have such a large advantage in the number of people, but they are still at a disadvantage. But the captains of the Whitebeard pirates lead the pirates, and they are still fighting to the death. The 7 captains, including Ice Witch Whiteby, Lei Ching, Andre, and I Luong, gritted their teeth and restrained Kizaru Blood Shadow. With the help of props such as armament hockey and seastone bullets, Kizaru's Blood Shadow has been delayed for a full 3 minutes. Under the absolute strength of Kizaru Blood Shadow, they fought for only a few minutes. Their faces were covered with sweat, and they were panting heavily. It was obvious that they were under a lot of pressure, and their bodies were more or less injured. Whitebeard and the others are going to be unable to hold on. Thousands of elites plus their 10 captains could not withstand the attack of 4 people, and the Great Vortex Spider was extremely anxious. The most important target for him and the other captains right now is the tall cloaked man in front of them. But the opponent's strength is far stronger than their captain. With sharp swordsmanship and huge amounts of hockey, he can only rely on sieges to find opportunities for a fatal blow. Finally, the Great Vortex Spider found an opportunity and stabbed the cloaked man through the body. But at the same time, the remaining 2 captains were also slashed out by the cloaked man with a sword, vomiting blood. I don't know what you are thinking. You actually want to trade your life for a life. But now, you can die. The big whirlpool spider was delighted, and after saying these words to the Momousagi Blood Shadow fiercely, the weapon in its hand was pulled out from its body. A large amount of blood flowed, staining the ground red, and in the eyes of the Vortex Spider, the cloaked man collapsed on the ground like a deflated balloon. In his opinion, this cloaked man is the only one who trades lives for lives. The other cloaked men are fighting with a large number of pirates. If they can withstand it for the time being, they will all join forces to kill it first. So, he succeeded, successfully broke its weapon color under high-frequency concentrated attacks and killed the opponent. The Great Vortex Spider and the others, who had worked so hard to kill them, didn't react at all. The death of a normal person is not like being exhausted. On the other side, hundreds of pirates who were defeated steadily by the Drought Blood Shadow and the T-Dolphin Blood Shadow immediately cheered. Great. The captains defeated the cloaked man. Hope. Hope of victory. Suddenly, the morale of the pirates couldn't help but rise. However, Shaen En and Momousagi, who were watching with telescopes, remained calm and smiled slightly. Next second, the blood shadow of the killed Momousagi gathered again in the cloak and clothes at an extremely fast speed. He held the long sword and continued to attack without any hesitation. The joy on the faces of the captains of the big Vortex Spider has not dissipated. They stiffened for a moment, and their eyes turned into deep shock. He's resurrected. How can this be? No, something is wrong. This is not a human being. Whether it was the pirates whose morale had soared, or the 10 captains who were fighting fiercely, they were in despair at this moment. Combined with Momousagi's blood shadows, death, and resurrection appearance, they can also see that the cloaked man is not a real person at all. It's a pity that they haven't officially met the Whitebeard pirates yet, and they don't know Shaen's blood shadow. They only have shocked eyes and fear. How can we fight against such an existence? Just to kill once, the 3 captains had to use great strength, including countless elites being injured to do it. At this time, there was a bang. Kizaru Blood Shadow's light speed kicked the frustrated and frightened Andre away, hitting the rocks on the island and causing a violent explosion. Whitebeard and others couldn't even stop the blow from Kizaru's Blood Shadow. With despair, anxiety and other emotions intertwined, their intention to retreat became more and more obvious. Cough cough cough. There's no need to fight. You can't sacrifice so many lives for one territory. Get out. Andre clutched his stomach from the firelight, limping and wiping the blood residue from the corner of his mouth to warn everyone. How can we fight with these monsters? One Kizaru is enough to destroy everyone. Coupled with the fact that the cloaked man he killed could be resurrected, Andre's mentality collapsed and he immediately decided to retreat. Whitebeard, Lei Ching and others were very unwilling, and the Vortex Spider was even more incapable of roaring. If one retreats, the others will have to retreat as well. In the end, all 10 large fleets of pirates chose to retreat. Shaen and Momousagi watched the battle from a distance. When they saw the pirates' movements, they immediately ordered with joy. Get closer. Drive the pirates away and take over the territory. Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge. Activity time. August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 28. The mission is completed. The 3 admirals are together. 10 famous pirates retreated like this. Momousagi sighed sincerely when he saw this. This blood shadow ability is really pervert, especially since Shaen also has admiral level combat power. It is simply amazing. However, at this time, Shaen was more concerned about seizing the territory, and did not let the 4 blood shadows capture them all, but expelled the main ones. After all, they are just grabbing a territory. If they kill everyone, it will easily lead to crazy revenge from the Whitebeard pirates. Therefore, when Shaen and Momousagi led the marine warriors to the island, all the large fleets under the Whitebeard pirates had already fled, and the pirate ships had also sailed away. After the 4 blood shadows and the marine soldiers circled the island to confirm that there was no problem, Shaen and Momousagi came to the town on the island. Now all the residents on the island have witnessed the defeat of the Whitebeard pirates with their own eyes, and they are all in awe, especially when they see the cloaked man. So under the shocked eyes of all the residents, Whitebeard's pirate flag was burned and a flag with a special symbol was hung. This is an 8 laid flat upside down, and it is also the infinity symbol infinity drawn by Shaen himself. What does it mean? Momousagi was a little surprised to see the flag hung by Shaen. Shouldn't it be Marine's flag? After saying that, Shaen asked someone to add the Marine logo on the side, and replied, "It represents infinity, and it will be our logo from now on." Shaen's childish face revealed a depth that was beyond her age. Infinity can also be called incomprehensible, so there is no need to continue explaining to Momousagi. Of course, Shaen is the leader of the crusade, and Momousagi is just the bodyguard. He has the power to decide what to do, and as a marine general, he has his own identity. The marine soldiers also looked excited. This was the first time that they had seized such a large territory from the hands of the New World Emperor and the Whitebeard pirates. At the same time, as soon as the flag belonging to Shaen was hung up, the system prompts immediately sounded. Ding! Congratulations to the master for completing the mission and obtaining the 5th dead soldier spot. Remove the 2nd cooldown for dead warrior resurrection. Replace the number of dead soldiers once. Close black lens bracket. Ding! New mission released. 1. In the team of Blood Shadow Warriors there must be at least 2 Blood Shadow Warriors of Admiral level and above. 2. Use the Blood Shadow Death Warrior to defeat a legendary character. 3. Seize at least 3 territories of any Imperial pirate group. 4. Participate in a war comparable to the top. Close black lens bracket. After completing the mission, you will receive 1. 6th and 7th Blood Shadow Dead Soldier quota. 2. Immediately remove the cooldown of the 3rd Blood Shadow Death Soldier. 3. 1 time to replace the number of Blood Shadow Soldiers. Close black lens bracket. Shaen was surprised when she saw it. Damn it, it's getting more and more difficult. System tasks. 2 places are given for 1 mission, but the difficulty is really high. It is the Summit War level. Not only the influence must be in place, but the number of strong people must also be in place to be considered comparable. It's not that easy. Looking at this, Shaen understood that the next 2 quotas might not be available so soon, at least that's what it looks like now. But there are 5 Blood Shadow Dead Warriors, and there are replacements. I also have the blood of strong men in my hands. It is enough for the time being. Thinking of this, Shaen immediately felt impatient. He immediately returned to the battleship, leaving Momousagi to continue focusing on the rest of the comfort work. With the Blood Shadow protecting him, Momousagi doesn't have any pretensions to follow him at all times. So, Shaen returned to the cabin of the battleship and took out the blood that Sengoku had prepared. Create Blood Shadow Soldiers. Single quote. The system was activated, and the magical scene of blood reappeared. Not long after, another blood red shadow appeared in front of Shaen. The curly hair, the tall figure outlined, and the blood red shadow with the clothes on the outside, it is one of the marine admirals, Aokiji Kuzan. Seeing the successful appearance of Aokiji's blood shadow, which is also the 2nd admiral, Shaen has some excitement in his eyes. Whose blood should be used next? Afterwards, Shaen looked at the container of blood on the table, scratched his head and thought about it. Don't forget, there is another chance to replace. On the table, there are blood of high-end combat forces such as Akainu, Garp, and Sengoku. Let's use Akainu's, Garp, and Sengoku's 2 old guys are too strong. It's not good if they are not perfect, and the next 2 places can be reserved for them. After thinking about it, under the drive of perfectionism and obsessive-compulsive disorder, Shaen decided to put together the chicken, dog and monkey first. There is a decision. Under Shaen's will, the blood shadow of the T-dolphin present bowed to salute, and dissipated invisibly in the next moment without leaving a drop of blood. At the same time, Akainu's blood floated out and turned into a human form. In a few seconds, Akainu's strong and tall blood shadow successfully appeared. It happened to replace the 2nd place for the T-porpoise blood shadow. Nice. 3 admirals are complete. Looking at the 3 admiral blood shadow soldiers in front of her, Shaen laughed happily. The reason why the blood shadow of the T-dolphin is used to replace it is precisely because the 2nd slot has unlimited resurrection, just like the blood shadow of Momousagi. And Akainu is admiral with the strongest attack power. Imagine a Magma admiral with the strongest attack power, and infinite resurrection. How pervert should that be? The whole blood shadow lineup can be described as a qualitative leap. For example, the captain of New World just now has become a cat and a dog. Once the 3 admirals go out, they are swept away in an instant. And the Akainu blood shadow, I'm afraid it can go head to head with the legendary 4 emperors. After all, it is not afraid of death and will not exhaust itself. Shaen felt outrageous just thinking about it, and couldn't help but smile. Afterwards, Shaen let the blood shadows put on their cloaks and walk out the door after calming down their excitement. Just at this time, Momousagi led people onto the boat, saw Shaen smiled, and just wanted to say that the land issue had been settled. At this time, the phone bug on her body rang. On the opposite side is Sengoku with a somewhat anxious tone. Momousagi, Xia En, the large ship group and the main ship of the Whitebeard pirates have all passed, and not only the main ship of Whitebeard, but also the Red Hair pirates, evacuate now. Even Marshal Sengoku couldn't help being nervous knowing that Whitebeard and the Redhead were going together. Xia En is the future of Marine, no fatal crisis is allowed. Whitebeard and Redhead, Momousagi and the Marines behind were all terrified when they heard the words, and their expressions changed dramatically. The timid one immediately started to sweat. 2 Sea Emperors. They came here together. Xia En was originally happy to gather 3 blood shadows of Admiral, but when she heard that Whitebeard and the Red Hair rushed over, she was shocked immediately. FK. If you have one monster, you still have the confidence to do it. 2 monsters together are too exaggerated. Complaining wildly in her heart, Xia En quickly evacuated immediately. Filu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time. August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 29. The double emperors arrive, just for an 8-year-old kid. Xia En is cheating, but she is not crazy yet. She naturally knows how important 4 emperors is. The world's strongest Whitebeard, and a conqueror's Redhead who couldn't even compare to the strong men of the old days, came together, and even with 3 admirals, he couldn't handle it. Sengoku on the other end heard Xia En and Momousagi evacuate immediately, and he could only pray that the other party would slow down a little and Xia En would not be in danger. At the same time, he continued, New World has assembled 3 admirals and Garp, including me, and all personnel are dispatched to support. Momousagi, your mission is to protect Xia En, do you understand? Yes, Marshal Sengoku. If the other party wants to harm Xia En, they can only step over my body. Momousagi said very seriously that he would protect her to the death. If necessary, risk your life to save Xia En and wait for support from Sengoku, Garp and others. At this time, Xia En also calmed down. It was still safe with someone covering her behind. Marine is very efficient. They actually came to support me. I hope it's in time. The warship has started and is lifting quickly. Sengoku also seizes the time to set off, because in order to prevent the 4 emperors from making too much noise when meeting each other, almost all the high-level combat forces are in the G division. In addition, the marine warship has the function of crossing the calm belt, and the ocean currents used by the world government, the speed will be very fast. In this way, Xia En, Momousagi and a boat of marine soldiers drove for nearly half an hour. I shouldn't be able to catch up. I won't encounter you. Momousagi felt a little more relaxed. But what I didn't expect was that just now I thought I was a little safer, suddenly. A huge ball of green flames fell from the sky, turned into 3 claw marks, and landed an attack that was almost bigger than a warship. Phoenix Seal. Momousagi had no time to think too much. His expression changed dramatically, he picked up Xia En and disappeared instantly. Before Xia En could even react, her whole face fell into softness, and the sound of wind blew past her. When he was exhausted from the kick, Momousagi put himself down. It's Marco. Momosagi's voice was very dull and his face was ugly. Without thinking much, Xia En looked up and saw that she had been taken to a nearby small island by Momousagi. And the warships on the ocean were suddenly torn apart, destroyed into 2 halves, and slowly sank on the sea. The surviving marines were swimming toward the island in fear. In the sky, Marco, the phoenix with blue wings waving, was looking coldly at Xia En and Momousagi. Just now, it was he who launched the Phoenix Seal from the air, directly destroying the warship. Xia En, if there is danger, let the blood shadow take you away. Momousagi was very serious at this time and turned around to give a complicated explanation to Xia En. The captain of the Whitebeard Pirates' 1st Division has arrived, which means the Whitebeard Pirates have caught up. Without the warship, they can't escape. Xia En looked at Momousagi, and in order to reassure her, she nodded. I will. As he said this, with a thought in his mind, the 5 bloody figures that followed the warship sinking into the sea broke through the water and gathered around Xia En. Marco, who was in the air, saw the cloaked man appear. His eyes narrowed slightly, but he made no move. When Xia En was just about to think of a way to fight back, 3 or 4 pirate ships appeared on the sea. Among them, the most massive ones are Moby Dick and Red Force. The 2 Sea Emperors have officially arrived. It's Whitebeard and Redhead. They're coming. The marine soldiers who finally landed ashore immediately gathered around Xia En in panic, their voices trembling. Momosagi's face turned extremely ugly when she saw this kind of battle. She held the hilt of Jinpira's sword tightly, and her tendons were prominent, indicating that she was already building up her mentality at this moment and was going to fight desperately. Whitebeard. Xia En took a deep breath. As for running away, they are still a little confident. As long as they can't fly, they can't catch up with Kizaru's blood shadow. But in the current situation, running away would undoubtedly lead Momousagi and others to a dead end, so Xia En would first see what attitude these pirates have before running away. On the Moby Dick, a group of captains were already standing on the edge looking at Xia En. Their eyes still seemed to be very curious. Subsequently, the large ship violently rushed into the reef area and parked on the shore. Whitebeard and the captains got off the boat and stood on the beach, accompanied by a red-haired Shanks. The huge aura of the four emperors immediately tightened the hearts of the marine soldiers to the extreme. Momousagi even protected Shaen En and retreated a lot to keep a safe distance. As for Whitebeard, the two red-haired people noticed the childlike Shaen En when they got off the boat. They looked at her with unabashed curiosity, and then looked at the five cloaked figures in front of Shaen En with slightly focused eyes. Then, it should be his blood shadow, and there are already 5 of them. Shanks had previously learned that there were 4, but now it seemed that there were more than 4. And Whitebeard and him, including the captain behind him and even Beckman, Usopp and others who stayed on the ship, all discovered that the aura of the 5 cloaked men was very strong. One of them smells exactly like Momousagi, but the strongest ones are the other 3. Are all 3 admirals? The eyes of the red-haired and others moved slightly, and they made a small guess. If this is the case, then this Shaen En is incredible. Her ability is even more pervert than expected. In this way, after pondering for a while, Marco fell next to Whitebeard and explained in a low voice the situation of the Ice Witch and others. Then the eyes of the strongest man in the world became sharp. A sense of pressure suddenly enveloped the Marines on the opposite side. Because the cause of the incident was Marine taking the initiative to attack and hurt people, neither the red-haired nor Whitebeard spoke to Shaen En out of curiosity. Instead, Whitebeard asked in a cold tone, "Marine, in the New World, we are on the same page with you. Normally, we are hunted down by avoidance. Do you want to start a war by doing this today?" Whitebeard, who only lives for his family, never takes the initiative to stir up trouble. It can be said that the two sides have always maintained a tacit understanding of balance. No one wants to start a war with the other, because that will inevitably cause turmoil in the world. Momousagi hesitated inwardly and was about to make an excuse to explain. Shaen En took the initiative and said, misunderstanding, it's just a military exercise, let's leave now." "No matter, let's fool around first." The red-haired and captains opposite looked at Shaen En with strange expressions. Whitebeard refused to listen at all and sneered, "Military exercise? You're thinking so much even though your hair isn't even long, kid, do you know what you've done? The people who killed me changed the flag and took my territory, now if you want to leave, you have to leave your life behind. Especially you, Marine Rear Admiral Shaen En." Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time, August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 30 Shaen En. Whitebeard, if you want to fight, then I will accompany you to the end. Whitebeard. Do you want to start an all-out war? Shaen En is the biological brother of Marine Admiral Kizaru. Attacking him is equivalent to starting an all-out war with us. Momousagi knew that he couldn't soften it this time, and he couldn't lose in terms of momentum, so he shouted sternly. "Gu la la la, no one's brother is of any use." Whitebeard laughed, but his laughter seemed particularly disdainful. "Marine Admiral? Even Marine Admiral is useless? Those who hurt our companions will face our revenge." This is a rule known to the entire sea. Along with Marco, the captains of Beasta all laughed when they heard this. As the strongest pirate group in the world by default, they have the confidence and strength. Shaen En looked helpless as she listened to Momosagi's words. This identity is useless in front of Whitebeard. However, when he turned around, he saw that although Momosagi's face was ashen and his mouth was stern, he was actually dialing the phone behind his back. Now being stopped by the Whitebeard pirates, words are useless. Momousagi can only contact Sengoku, hoping that Sengoku can intercede with Whitebeard remotely. Then, Whitebeard, Red Hair and others saw Momousagi flash the phone that was connected. "Mr. Sengoku, we're stopped." Sengoku on the opposite side was silent for a moment, and then said, "Let me talk to Whitebeard." The situation seems to be very bad. For Sengoku, who takes the overall situation into consideration, Shaen En is of unparalleled importance, so he would rather make peace in this way. "They killed my people and took my territory." Whitebeard laughed, but his face showed no expression. Sengoku didn't do any ink and went straight to the point. "How about letting them go? You should understand my rules," Whitebeard said calmly, but his eyes remained on Momousagi and Shaen En. "Injure them and start an all-out war." Naturally, Sengoku couldn't beg his opponent in a low voice, so his tone became colder and he threatened. "Newgate, Shaen En and Momousagi are both Marine futures. If you want to start a war, I won't stand idly by." On Marine's side, there were Akainu, Kizaru, Aokiji and others surrounding the phone bug, all of whom had livid faces, and Garp also yelled fiercely. Listening to this, Whitebeard doesn't want to let him go, and he doesn't give any face at all. But the words of the two old men were still very intimidating and determined. The two Sengoku Garp actually used such a tone. It seems that once Whitebeard takes action, Marine and him will inevitably break out into a bigger war. Seeing the launch of the situation, the red-haired Shanks couldn't help but squint his eyes and think secretly. "Gula la la la. That's great, Garp, Sengoku, I haven't done anything with you for so many years, so we just happened to come together." At this time, Whitebeard was very pleased with what Haki said, and then impatiently asked Izo to kill Momosagi's phone bug. "Whitebeard, you." Before Sengoku could finish his words, he heard a bang and there was no sound from the other side. The connection there was actually disconnected. Kizaru couldn't help but look angry when he saw this, and gritted his teeth and growled. Whitebeard. Kizaru's temper has always been calm, and it is rare to be so angry. It can be seen how worried and anxious he is about Shaw En's safety at this moment. Akainu, who is also very optimistic about Shaw En, also angrily said, if something happens to Shaw En, he must make the entire Whitebeard pirates look good. Shaw En's future can be seen by everyone, and she will definitely become a bright new star in Marine's future. Don't worry, everyone, Whitebeard must be very clear about our determination. If something happens, we will make our position clear even if we go to full-scale war with them. The three elderly people, Sengoku, Garp, and Granny He, were inevitably worried and said solemnly. At this time, everyone on Shaw En's side had ugly expressions and looked at the Whitebeard pirates warily. Just now Izo shot the phone bug to pieces without hesitation. At the same time, the captains present began to surround Shaw En in a fan shape. A group of marine soldiers couldn't help but tremble. What they are facing now are the four emperors, and they are also known as the strongest men in the world. All protect Shaw En Rear Admiral, everyone. Justice will never bow its head. Momousagi pulled out the Kenpira from his waist and encouraged the marine soldiers present with a determined look. I thought I must protect Shaw En. Yes, Momousagi Vice Admiral. Although they are afraid of the name of the Whitebeard pirates, upholding the name of justice can still encourage the Marines to fight to the death. Facing Marine who was about to rise up to resist, Marco, Izo and others also took up their stances. The two sides looked at each other with a strong smell of gunpowder, as if they were about to take action in the next second. But at this critical moment, Shanks stepped heavily on the ground, and powerful force swept across all directions, blocking Marine's tightness and the rhythm of the pirates' imminent attack. Whitebeard, now is not the time to go all out with Marine. If it was just to teach him a lesson, Shanks wouldn't stop him, but if he really killed Shaw En, Marine might really break the balance. You want to intercede with Marine too? Whitebeard glanced at Shanks. His tone was very natural, as if he had expected Shanks to make a sound. It's not intercession. That Shaw En and Momousagi, one is Admiral's younger brother, the Star of Tomorrow, and the other is alternate Admiral. Everyone should give me face, and focus on punishment. There is no need to take their lives. The red-haired Shanks shook his head and advised sincerely. Can red-hair pirates tolerate being violated like this? Whitebeard sneered. The red-haired man frowned and said, this is different. No need to say it, red-haired brat. When Shanks wanted to continue speaking, Whitebeard interrupted with a wave of his hand, pointing his naginata directly at Shaw En. Before setting off, the two had just broken down on the issue of teach. Shanks was also very tough, and Whitebeard also refused to give him any face. Shanks had no choice but to sigh in his heart. It seemed that he still had to find a way to solve the problem at hand. But at this time, Shaw En, who was pointed at by Whitebeard, looked directly at him and said coldly, kill if you want, and fight if you want. As soon as these words came out, the pirates and marine soldiers present were immediately shocked. Is this what an 8-year-old child can say? He was facing Whitebeard. But Shaw En's expression was very calm at this time. Although she looked serious, what she said was very serious. Shaw En you. Momousagi looked a little anxious and was about to persuade Shaw En to run away. I thought to myself, facing Whitebeard is not the time for you to show off. You can still be so strong without delaying the time. Before she finished speaking, Shaw En raised her hand without hesitation. The 5 blood shadows behind him walked forward in unison, full of momentum. Seeing this, Whitebeard couldn't help but smile. It's great, a kid of several years old actually has the courage to declare war on me in person, gu la la la. Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time, August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 31 Controlling 2 Admiral Blood Shadows is simply outrageous. It's not that Shaw En doesn't have the strength, but that she's not sure when facing the 2-4 emperors. But being unsure doesn't mean you can't fight, and now it seems that the red hair doesn't want to upset the balance of power in the sea, so he may not take action. If you want to fight, then come. Shaw En ignored Whitebeard's smile and spoke again. He couldn't attack first, but he wanted to see how Whitebeard would arrange his troops to take down his side. Whitebeard was also very direct, shouting, Marco. Yes. Dad. Marco immediately flashed with excitement and jumped up from the ground, intending to attack Shaw En. If that doesn't work, we can only have a conflict with Whitebeard today. The red-haired Shanks saw this situation and thought to himself. At the same time, he saw Shaw En seem to be very calm and wanted to see how Shaw En would respond. Phoenix. Momousagi gritted his silver teeth, put his palm on the handle of the knife, and looked at Marco who was heading straight towards Shaw En and was about to take action. But at this time, Shaw En stopped Momousagi from taking action. Blood Shadow enters. After saying that, he directly gave the command to Kizaru Blood Shadow with his thoughts. The next second, among the 5 blood shadows behind him, Kizaru Blood Shadow stepped forward directly and raised his finger towards the menacing Marco. Call out. A laser beam burst out instantly and was fired at him. Although the beam of light is not large, pirates and marines all know that the power of Kizaru's flash does not depend on its size. It really is the blood shadow of Admiral Whitebeard. The red-haired man and others saw the blood shadow flashing red, and their eyes moved slightly. At the same time, Marco's whole body was ignited with intense blue flames, forming a rotating eye of wind and fire. The beam shot into the swirling green flames, as if its power had been swallowed up, but there was no explosion. It's no use, hey. No damage to the laser beam. Marco, who returned to his human form, smiled proudly. But at this time, dots of red light began to gather in front of him, and the cloaked Kizaru blood shadow appeared in front of him, and had already raised his legs. Lightspeed kick. Even a phoenix wouldn't feel comfortable being kicked at ultimate speed. Marco also reacted very quickly. Although he had raised his arm covering Haki to block, when the extremely fast impact force acted on his body, he couldn't withstand it in an instant and fell downwards. With a bang, a big pit exploded with fire, hateful. In the dust, Marco's voice came out, and the wings of the phoenix dispersed the smoke, revealing the ashamed Marco. He was kicked, and Xingyan quickly repaired it, which shows that it is very uncomfortable to be attacked by Admiral. It seems that the light speed kick can restrain Marco's ability very well, as long as he doesn't use the undead flame move. Shaen En can also see clearly below, at the same time. Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates and even the red hair pirates were amazed. It's really a one-to-one replica of Admiral's strength. This ability seems to pervert. Even the ability of sparkling fruit can be reproduced. Marco is tricky now. The expressions of the captains changed, and even Whitebeard's face became a little dignified. Seeing that Marco was unconvinced and flew up again, the speed of Kizaru's blood shadow made him unable to keep up at all. Continuous lasers pierced through his body, and immediately Marco burned green flames and sprinted past without injury again, and the two body skills collided. But not long after, Marco was kicked away by Kizaru blood shadow again. You know, blood shadow will only carry out Shaen's order 100%, and use enough strength to beat Marco violently, but he will not play slowly like Kizaru himself. What an outrageous ability. From the perspective of combat, it's not just a 100% replica of abilities and skills. We still underestimated the potential of Shaen. No wonder Marine's reaction is so great. Sengoku and even the three admirals will protect such a talent with all their strength. If they are really killed by Whitebeard, the situation may be more serious than the consequences caused by Blackbeard. The red-haired Shanks, Beckman, and Usopp were also very surprised. At the same time, they also guessed many possible things and became serious. This ability is really terrifying. It's impossible to imagine if you haven't seen it with your own eyes. The Marines became excited when they saw the blood shadow suppressing Marco. After all, it was really Admiral's strength to protect them, and they still hoped to last until the arrival of the large army. After the Whitebeard pirates saw Marco being suppressed by the blood shadow, their faces became gloomy from surprise. No, we are not a one-on-one duel right now. Chaozi couldn't bear to watch it anymore, and his fierce face sank even more frighteningly. A big step is to start running out, trying to support Marco. But at this moment, one of the four blood shadows in front of Shaen rushed out. His body size was even bigger than Joe's, and he rushed towards Joe's, who was disrupting the situation, and his body shape changed dramatically in the process. Drought blood shadow exploded his cloak and let out a cry. The whole body is blood red, with a strange but powerful elephant body. It's the drought of the beast's pirates. Everyone on the pirates' side recognized the source of the blood shadow at a glance, and they were all surprised. But Joe's, who was running, was disdainful, and his eyes shifted from Kizaru's blood shadow to the drought blood shadow aimed at him, and half of his body turned into diamonds in an instant. Immediately, Josie and the mammoth blood shadow collided fiercely. The crystallized arm collided with the elephant's trunk, and a pure force burst out instantly and spread out. The sand and rocks on the ground were rolling, and the whole area was shaken. As a result, the drought blood shadow in the form of a mammoth is no match for Diamond Josie in terms of strength. The strength is extremely strong, and Chaozi, who is far superior to ordinary opponents, directly knocked the blood shadow of the drought into the air. The huge mammoth's body made a dent on the ground, and it slid for a long distance before barely stopping. The power of Diamond Joe's is really terrifying, all the people watching, including Marine, exclaimed. Captain Joe's. That's it, defeat Marine, HMPH, so what if the drought is reproduced? It's just the waste of beasts. Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates cheered even more. That's all. Joe's face was calm, but he was able to spit out 4 extremely mocking words. As a result, at this moment, just as he finished speaking, he was swept by a gust of cold wind, and he was directly frozen into an ice sculpture. The cheers of the Whitebeard pirates also stopped abruptly, and all of them stared wide-eyed, looking at Joe's in disbelief. I saw a man in a cloak walking towards Joe's step by step. On the outstretched palm, the cold air drifted down. Frozen. It's frozen fruit. Marine Admiral Aokiji's ability. Could this blood shadow of his be Admiral again? Everyone was shocked and swallowed their throats. Even Whitebeard, who had guessed for a long time, raised his eyebrows when he saw this. This little guy can really control more than 2 admirals. Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge. Activity time, August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 32 Whitebeard takes action himself. No wonder the two Sea Emperors, Whitebeard and Redhead, were moved. The Admiral-level combat power is among the best in the world, even a hair's breadth away from the four Emperors. At the age of 8, he has already mastered 2 Blood Shadows with Admiral-level abilities. It's terrifying to think about it. Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates saw Josie being frozen into an ice sculpture and Aokiji's Blood Shadow appeared, and they exclaimed, "Captain Josie." The red hair pirates at the back even changed their expressions. 2 admirals. He's just a kid, but he already has combat power that countless people in the world can't match. It's off the charts. With such a strong potential, if he were to be killed here, Marine would probably go crazy. Usopp, Rikiru, Gabu and Beckman looked at each other solemnly. And 2 admirals are enough to challenge an imperial pirate group. His attitude towards Shaen En has become even more cautious than rumored. At this time, even Momousagi beside Shaen En had not paid attention to the cloaked man, and had not thought about where this Aokiji blood shadow came from, with a look of surprise on his face. It turns out you were prepared. At this moment, Momousagi remembered the blood that Shaen En had asked for before setting off, and felt relieved. With the combat power of the 2 admirals, Kizaru and Aokiji, no matter what happens, Shaen En should be able to evacuate, or delay it until the main force arrives. After all, 2 admirals are not the effect of 1 + 1. The 2 admiral blood shadows are now exposed, and they look menacing. Josie broke through the ice and felt that his diamond body was a little stiff from the cold. Marco was even more miserable being suppressed by Kizaru. That light speed kick was hard to defend against. If it were the other captains who didn't have the Phoenix Flame recovery, they would probably be crippled by Kizaru's blood shadow kick. Is this the true combat power of Admiral? Now that the 2 blood shadows have joined forces, the level of terror has increased, and Marco has become even more unbearable. He fell heavily on the beach and complained through gritted teeth. In front of Aokiji's frozen fruit, Josie is more like a rusty robot. Even though he is extremely powerful, the blood shadow will not be distracted like Aokiji, but will only focus more on fighting against the enemy. During the brutal collision, Aokiji's blood shadow dodged past, avoiding a head-on collision with Diamond Josie, and then the terrifying cold air would seize this opportunity to freeze it. Quickly shaking off the ice slag, Josie had a gloomy and ugly look on his face. When he got close again, the initial impact was missing. Aokiji blood shadow chose to collide with his physical skills without hesitation. With each strike, the cold air invaded Josie's body, slowing down the flow of his blood. Gradually, he became increasingly unable to explode. "Jose, I'm afraid Marco can't handle it, let's go." In desperation, many captains of the Whitebeard pirates wanted to come to the rescue, but in the end Beasta and Izo chose to enter. In the sky, Marco, who had learned his lesson, was filled with blue flames all over his body. He digested the laser damage from Kizaru's blood shadow, and hit a crane claw with his backhand. Under the inertia of high-speed flight, Marco's blow landed hard on Kizaru's blood shadow. The powerful kick caused the blood shadow to retreat quickly, and Marco's legs were tightly pressed against its body. Just when he was about to shoot him down, the blood shadow found an opportunity to avoid the armed color and turned into a stream of red light that gathered behind Marco. Lightspeed kick. This time, Marco seemed to be prepared, and he used defensive moves without turning around. Immortal Thistle. The circular shield created by Xia En was hit by Kizaru's blood shadow's lightspeed kick. The powerful force exploded a large amount of green flames, and Sparkling Fruit's ability burst into bright fire, instantly carrying impact and knocking Marco away together with the Immortal Thistle. Boom! Marco crashed into the island's majestic mountain, leaving a cloud of gravel and dust. Just as Blood Shadow was about to continue chasing, a bullet with Haki shot towards him, blocking Blood Shadow. Don't try to chase. Yizang has sharp eyes and holds 2 guns in his hands. He was loading the pistol nimbly and quickly with one hand, and shooting with the other hand, pinning down Kizaru Blood Shadow. Shaen En didn't write any ink, and immediately gave the order to fight together. In an instant, the blood shadow turned into red light again and charged towards Yizang. "I won't let you get close." Marco rushed out of the gravel at the right time and kicked Kizaru Blood Shadow. Blood Shadow, who had inherited Kizaru's combat awareness, made a backhand laser attack to hide, and raised his leg to block Marco's attack. At this time, Shaen En, who gave the battle order, didn't look at Kizaru more, but looked at Diamond Jose, who was also supported. Chaozi, who has been frozen into ice sculptures many times, is obviously slow and has become a living target. Just when Aokiji's blood shadow froze it again and found a suitable opportunity to crush it, a gorgeous slash like a flower petal fell from the air. After the sword energy, there is the great swordsman with 2 swords, Foil Vista. Seeing this, Aokiji's blood shadow retreated a lot of distance decisively driven by the fighting consciousness. Because at this time, Jose also took the opportunity to break through the ice layer, breathing white mist and hitting the place where the blood shadow was just now. With a bang, a small hole was smashed into the ground, but the blood shadow had already distanced itself. "Jose, are you okay?" Foil Vista glanced at Josie, who was not in good condition. "Fine." Responding in a muffled voice, Jose rushed towards Aokiji. Vista's eyes were also sharp in an instant, and the two swords in his palms slashed with fierce sword energy. But for this kind of attack, when Blood Shadow raises his hand, the ice spear will withstand it, and then he will use all his strength to fight fiercely against the two captains. Under the fierce confrontation, Aokiji Blood Shadow even firmly suppressed Vista and Josie. At the same time, Marco and Yizang were also unable to launch an effective attack, barely able to resist the Blood Shadow of Kizaru, who was also fully fired. Ice and light intertwined, and the terrifying power enveloped the audience in an instant, making everyone in the Whitebeard pirates look extremely gloomy. Aokiji Kizaru, the two Blood Shadow fighters, barely resisted the four captains. He really deserves to be the highest combat power of Marine. If this continues, he will lose sooner or later. However, they didn't know that it was because Shaen En didn't give the killing order. Otherwise, Admiral's fighting power is simply unimaginable. No, let's go support too. Bramenk, Lakyo and other captains couldn't help but also want to go up to support, looking anxious. But before people entered the arena, a big hand stopped them all. Wait, it's not the style of the Whitebeard pirates to be bullied by too many people. It was Whitebeard himself who spoke. At this moment, Whitebeard really looked at Shaen En with admiration. After stopping his sons, he looked directly at Shaen En and said, "Little devil, you really exceeded my expectations. It didn't take long for you to develop your ability to this extent, not bad." Quote. But, let's call it a day. Saying that, Whitebeard fixed the naginata on the ground and clenched his fist tightly. He actually wants to do it himself. Filu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time, August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 33 Akainu Blood Shadow appears. Whitebeard. The red-haired Shanks shouted, and was about to stop Whitebeard from taking action, but hesitated again. At the same time on Shaen's side. The feeling of being stared at by Whitebeard was like being stared at by some wild beast, which made Shaen's back feel a little chilly. No, this old man wants to attack me directly. Shaen swallowed secretly, resisting the urge to retreat immediately. Momousagi next to him was even more frightened and nervous than him, and yelled, "Whitebeard. You actually want to attack an 8-year-old child?" The other Marines standing behind Shaen were even breaking out in cold sweat. What the hell is going on? Whitebeard will choose to attack Shaen directly. One is the strongest man in the world, and the other is just an 8-year-old genius child. But Whitebeard was unmoved and said bluntly, he wears the rank of Marine and masters Admiral level combat power. He is not a child. No enemy would treat such an opponent as an innocent child. Of course, he will not really use his full strength to deal with Shaen, it seems that he has some calculation. Then, Whitebeard hit Shaen with a backhand punch. There was a click, and the atmosphere burst. It spread like a spider web in the space, and the ground shook violently. The invisible and colorless vibration impact directly tears the ground along the way. Shaen's hair stood on end at this moment, Momosagi's blood shadow in front of him, Drought blood shadow instantly rushed out, armament hockey surged. Momousagi was even more solemn at this moment, holding Kinpira in hand without saying a word and taking action together with the blood shadow. One person and two blood shadows exerted a powerful force, and they could compete with Whitebeard's shocking fist. Even if Whitebeard doesn't attack with all his strength and has the intention of testing, this is not a power that Momosagi's level can easily block. The block formed by the three figures, hockey, barely blocked the incoming shock and impact. He moved back a few meters and dragged him out of the small ravine. The dust exploded and the soil collapsed, barely blocking its power. Just one punch. The strongest man in the world, his terrifying strength has been demonstrated, even if it is directed at Shaen himself, he can't help but sigh in his heart. After the punch, Whitebeard did not continue to attack. He glanced at the blood under the cloak and Momousagi, and then said to Shaen, the winner has been decided. If they really want to attack Shaen, the three of them cannot stop it, so this is also the gap that Whitebeard deliberately wants to show Shaen. Once Admiral is not around, he is just a lamb to be slaughtered. This damn old man. Shaen understood what Whitebeard meant and her face changed slightly. But judging from this meaning, it seems that he doesn't want to kill him. As expected, Whitebeard then said, I may not take your life, but you must personally kowtow to apologize to the lost pirates and compensate 10 billion belly, plus 2 pieces of New World territory occupied by Marine. The conditions were very harsh, and just the amount of money made Marine change his mind. But Momousagi knew that the Marines present, including Shaen, would not have been able to escape from Whitebeard's hands without the protection of Admiral's combat power. That punch just now was the best deterrent. So after hearing Whitebeard's conditions, Momousagi wanted to agree. The things outside the body are nothing compared to Shaen's life and potential. Kowtow and apologize. According to Momousagi, the problem is not big. But when she turned her head to look at Shaen, she found that Shaen's eyes were slightly condensed and she didn't even move. That's it. It is impossible to meet any of your conditions. On the other hand, if you give me 1 billion belly plus 2 pieces of territory, I will let the Whitebeard pirates go. By the way, If I say tens of billions of Baileys, I'm afraid your pirate group won't be able to raise it, so 1 billion is enough. It's a great deal. How about it? Xia En's call really shocked everyone present. The members of the Whitebeard pirates were confused at first, and then laughed angrily. Many people shouted sternly, Xia En, you are so brave. The red hair pirates were even more confused. This kid couldn't bear the pressure and went crazy. Whitebeard is willing to let him go, compensation is enough, and he threatens Whitebeard instead. Am I still awake and dreaming? Lakilu, Beckman, Usopp and others looked at each other, even the redhead wondered if Xia En was out of his mind. Even if he refuses, normal people will not speak out and threaten the powerful side instead. However, at this time, Whitebeard was also annoyed and laughed, throwing his head back and grunting. Immediately, one hand directly held the handle of the naginata beside him. Boom! The terrifying momentum erupted, and the small island seemed to tremble with fear. Amidst the fierce momentum, a white halo emerged from the tip of Whitebeard's knife to wrap the blade, and without further ado, he swung the knife directly at Xia En. The halo ball breaks through the air. The ground subsides and cracks instantly along the way. Amidst the rumbling and noisy destruction, everyone couldn't help but look at Whitebeard's shaking knife, their expressions moved. The power. Too strong. Momousagi and the Marines were stunned as if several mountains were colliding with each other. How could Xia En threaten Whitebeard in turn? He's dead now. Momousagi turned her head and looked at Xia En in horror, trying to get in front of him. However, at this time, whether it is Marine or pirates, people on both sides feel that Xia En is doomed. Impossible to stop this time. Whitebeard's horrific shaking of the knife would have split the island in half, not to mention Xia En's small body. The one-armed red-haired Shanks has begun to pull out the famous knife Griffin. This kid, it's not enough to admit his mistake, but he wants to die. Thinking in his heart, the helpless Shanks decided to block Whitebeard's attack himself. Suddenly at this time, although Xia En's face was moved, she was not afraid in the face of danger, and looked ahead at the terrifying scene of the knife-shaking attack. Suddenly, the temperature in the room began to rise sharply. Everyone is paying attention to the attacks of Xia En and Whitebeard, so they can see clearly at this time. A huge magma fist appeared from behind Xia En. The scorching and sincere color rendered Xia En, and then quickly passed over his head, blasting at Whitebeard's shaking knife. Immediately, the power of the two sides clashed head-on. The front positions of Momousagi and others suffered a strong impact, and they almost lost their footing. As for the confrontation, one part is magma splashing and dripping, and the other part is destruction, vibration and shattering. The astonishing picture shocked everyone, and Shanks, who was about to make a move, paused in amazement. Whitebeard's face also changed, a little unbelievable. This is Magma. Akainu Kid's ability. He actually hides an admiral-level combat power. Afterwards, the confrontation slowly ended. I saw Xia En standing there unharmed, staring ahead. A man in a cloak with magma still dripping from his body strode forward and stood in front of everyone. Red. Akainu's blood shadow. The whole audience was shocked. Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time. August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 34 My blood shadow of Akainu is invincible in the world. The fifth one is actually the blood shadow of Akainu Admiral. This guy, how much is he hiding? Or, he has been improving rapidly. Momousagi looked at the blood shadow flowing with magma, his expression management was out of control, and he was dumbfounded. It can be said that at this moment, whether it is a pirate or a marine, looking at Xia En is like seeing a monster. He has 5 blood shadows. And 3 of Admiral's shadows have been created. This is really something an 8-year-old can do. He, alone is equal to the strength of a naval headquarters. Crazy. On Red Force, the red-hair pirates couldn't help exclaiming. The red-haired man looked at Akainu's blood shadow, his eyes became serious. 3 shadows of Admiral, with 100% replica strength, Xia En's attention has risen sharply in their minds at this moment. When he grows up, he will be the leader of Marine. As Beckman spoke, his eyes turned to Xia En. Only 8 years old. This guy is simply a rare genius. And the 5 blood shadows gathered the 3 admirals together. Looking at the blood shadows on the field, the expressions of the captains and crew members of the Whitebeard pirates changed drastically, which was unbelievable. But Whitebeard is Whitebeard after all, the real man at the top. He was amazed by Xia En's ability, but he was disdainful of the fighting power of the 3 blood shadows today. Little devil, the ability is good, but what about the 3 admirals? After Whitebeard was surprised, he said lightly, pointing the naginata in his hand at Xia En. After all, he is a legendary existence. Xia En naturally knows very well that Whitebeard's combat power is terrible. If it is not for the plot kill, he may not die in the Summit War, and Admiral's full strength is even worse. However, the one with Admiral's combat power is the Blood Shadow Warrior. My blood shadow of Akainu is stronger than the real Sakazuki Admiral, invincible in the world. Old man Whitebeard, if you don't believe me, continue to try. Facing Whitebeard's disdain, Xia En said with a smile. Hearing this, Momousagi immediately became anxious. If it wasn't for Shaen's confident and determined appearance, he really wanted to go up and hold him, but he could only feel helpless. Brother Shaen, if you provoke me again, Whitebeard will really get angry. Although there are 3 Admiral Blood Shadows, the opponent is still outnumbered and in an absolute advantage. But these words are indeed arrogant, to say the strongest words in the world in front of Whitebeard. Don't Shaen know that Whitebeard is the strongest man in the world? This is too much. I'm afraid this island won't exist if we fight later. Whitebeard must be the strongest. Is that kid crazy? Not only Momousagi and Marine, but also everyone on the pirate side were shocked, looking at Shaen in disbelief, and everyone in red hair pirates covered their faces and spoke bluntly. Having said that, under normal circumstances, they naturally don't believe what children say, but now it's Shaen who says so. Faintly, Usopp, Lakilu and others feel that this little guy has performed too many miracles, so they have to believe it. But the captains of the Whitebeard pirates sound annoyed or sneer. With the blood shadow of Admiral in hand, has it swelled to this extent? Naive. Really naive. Daddy is the strongest man in the world. How dare you claim to be the strongest with a blood shadow ability? After capturing him, I must seriously tell him who is the strongest. A group of people from the Whitebeard pirates are cursing, full of atmosphere. But at this time, Whitebeard himself was giggling. An 8-year-old yellow-haired kid was talking nonsense in front of him. What is the strongest in the world? Obviously this is the aggressive method, and you have to go out in person to fight against the blood shadow. Don't play tricks, little brat. With that said, Whitebeard was still motivated by Shaen and chose to make a move. The body of more than 8 meters tall was extremely strong, and he jumped up, and went straight to Akainu's blood shadow. Hey, blood shadow, come on. Shaen murmured softly to herself, and quickly stepped back to create a distance. At the same time, the lower body of Akainu's blood shadow was burning with raging flames, and magma gushed out. Whitebeard, who came with a naginata, still had sharp eyes, pointed at the tip of the knife, and blasted at the blood shadow of Akainu with the blade of red and black lightning. Great eruption. Blood shadow erupted with a huge magma fist, like a volcanic eruption, and hit Whitebeard's knife fiercely with a huge impact. In an instant, the magma flame burst and was split by Whitebeard's haki, splashing in all directions, but successfully blocked it. Whitebeard is not affected by the magma at all, and his whole body is filled with horrifying haki. I saw Whitebeard's footsteps land on the ground steadily, and as soon as he raised his arm, another slash with a white halo fell down. In an instant, all the magma in the blood shadow was blown away, the power of the vibration was transmitted to the ground, and a huge crack was torn open, spreading across the entire island. Similarly, Akainu's blood shadow took advantage of this moment and flew into the sky like a rocket, facing Whitebeard with meteor fire fist. The larger magma cluster was really crushed like a meteor. To the shock of everyone present, Whitebeard punched backhand, tearing the atmosphere apart. The meteor lava was shattered before it fell, and half of the blood shadow's body was bombarded, turning into shattered magma. Whitebeard's strength is really terrifying, and Admiral's combat power can be completely suppressed in his hands. Everyone in the red-haired pirates team was amazed at this short round of fighting. The others were also surprised, but they didn't see how Akainu's blood shadow was stronger than Akainu himself. But at this moment, the people who hadn't waited for the spectators to think about it. The blood shadow magma that was hit by the bombardment condensed and became complete again, and immediately used itself as a shooting star, falling towards Whitebeard. What's going on? This blood shadow is gone. Although the attack power is greater, it is also easier for Whitebeard to penetrate the body, right? Could it be that Shaen commanded him to die like this? Something's wrong. No matter how strong the blood shadow is, haki can't be stronger than Whitebeard. Why does it attack like this? The surprise and doubts of the pirate masters. Whitebeard himself had a flash of surprise in his eyes, but he didn't care. The lion fought the rabbit with all its strength, and then used the shock knife without hesitation to stab the Akainu blood shadow that came on the impact. Armament haki blessing. Shock fruit ability main attack, plus sword energy, observation haki lock. Whitebeard's eyes were sharp, and he wanted to kill the blood shadow directly. Knife meets fire. As he expected, there was a bang. The outer layer of magma is completely shattered. The blood shadow was directly pierced through the body by the blade with the force of vibration. Everyone watched this scene, and exclaimed in surprise and confusion. No, Shaen really is bragging. What is the strongest? It's true that Admiral didn't lose so quickly when he came. Unexpectedly, at this time, Whitebeard's face changed drastically. The blood shadow, along with the naginata pole, launched directly towards Whitebeard's facade. Dark Hound. Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time. August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 35 Life for Life Play, Akainu's blood shadow died. Dark Hound. The blood shadow of Akainu quickly stretched out its lava-shaped arms and turned into a dog's head to bite. The attack speed of this move is very fast, and its power is also extraordinary. Whitebeard immediately felt the danger. If he was hit in the front, he would also be injured. That guy, is he going to fight for the blood shadow to be destroyed in exchange for my injury? Whitebeard couldn't help but be a little surprised. Immediately, he resolutely gave up the naginata in his hand, retreated violently, and at the same time punched Dark Hound. Boom! The fire exploded and the ground shook. Red Hair pirates, Whitebeard pirates and others, even Momousagi were stunned. It all happened very quickly, and there was a thrilling confrontation between Blood Shadow and Whitebeard between Hanabi Stone. However, seeing the supreme sharp knife Kong Yunchi passing through Zuying's chest, everyone felt incredible. He actually let the Blood Shadow trade wounds for wounds, trying to defeat Whitebeard with one blow. A child's mind is really hard to figure out, he just wants to be hard steel with Whitebeard. Whitebeard won't give him a second, better chance. Usopp, Ben Beckman, and Lakiru looked solemnly, and from time to time, they watched Xia En in the direction of Marine, but they found that guy looked indifferent. As if it doesn't matter to him that Zuying is injured. However, at this time, Akainu's Blood Shadow was bombarded head-on by Shock Fruit and pierced by Kong Yunchi, with blood already flowing from the wound. In the next second, Zuying pulled Kong Yunchi out of his body, and threw it aside like a normal person, and then even more fierce volcanic magma erupted from his body. The ground in this corner of the island was quickly occupied by magma, and Whitebeard's eyes moved slightly, facing Akainu's Blood Shadow, the armed color conquerors, two-color hockey exploded. After the momentum between the two sides collided, they slammed into each other with bare hands. Whitebeard roared and smashed his fist towards Blood Shadow's head. Blood Shadow didn't dodge, trying to get hit by Whitebeard, he also used Dark Hound, blasting at Whitebeard's chest. Dark Hound is one of Akainu's most powerful moves for single-target attacks. It will definitely be uncomfortable if you get hit. But this time, Whitebeard hit it, and it hit Whitebeard. Gotcha. The atmosphere crazily collapsed, and the Blood Shadow in it was like broken glass, and then was ruthlessly blown out. As for Whitebeard's chest, there was a sunken place emitting black smoke, and one could even see the scorched skin and flesh, with the residual heat of Mars. Almost about to be penetrated. Whitebeard took a deep breath and turned to look at Xia En. This kid, who is bold and careful, actually wants to use the Blood Shadow body to exchange injuries for injuries. At this time, the wound on Akainu's Blood Shadow that was knocked into the air was bleeding more, but Xia En showed no sign of stopping him, and everyone looked surprised. In a blink of an eye, he got up and exploded, and the Blood Shadow rushed towards Whitebeard again. And the aura was extremely fierce, which made the captains of the Whitebeard pirates change their faces, which was extremely ugly. What the hell is going on? That guy's Blood Shadow is desperate. It's a Blood Shadow, and it's also Logia's body, it's hard to kill. Marco, who breathed a sigh of relief, watched Whitebeard's battle intently, very worried. Because at this time, the Blood Shadow of Akainu became more and more fierce, attacking in a way of exchanging life for life. And Whitebeard was also forced to recruit killers, but even so, he couldn't directly crush Admiral-level combat power. Earth, air, ocean. Everything is shaking, causing turbulent waves. The flowing magma fell into the sea, puffing up mist. The position of the big guys to watch the battle is getting farther and farther, because the battle on the field at this moment is really terrible, and the destructive power has a great impact. With a single move, either the power of the vibration will turn the surroundings into powder, or the magma will ignite the surroundings, which is extremely terrifying. After the continuous comparison and fierce battle, everyone watched with horror. The Whitebeard pirates were worried, the Red Hair pirates were very serious, and the Marines were dumbfounded. Admiral is going all out, it's really scary. Whitebeard is a bit restrained, and he can't exchange injuries with his Blood Shadow body. Ben Beckman, Usopp and other cadres of the Red Team can see clearly that Whitebeard has changed his defense from the Indomitable at the beginning. Yes, Whitebeard is the strongest man in the world. But his strength is as terrifying as him, and if he resists Admiral's attack, he will be injured and fatal. So much so that at this moment, facing the unreasonable, even emotionless Blood Shadow, with his fierce and life-changing style of play, Whitebeard even developed a hint of fear. Gradually, Whitebeard had the opportunity to attack Akainu's Blood Shadow many times but withdrew it, not daring to easily take over and exchange injuries with him. Father is very timid when he hits. Bramenk, Yizang and the others looked ugly, and looked at Marco while talking. If things go on like this, it will be a disaster if Papa Whitebeard is restrained and seriously injured. He still has injuries. No, you have to trust Dad. Marco watched intently, gritted his teeth and said. Whitebeard is invincible, against a clone of Akainu, Dad's body is no problem at all. It seems to be to confirm what Marco thinks. On the battlefield at this time, Whitebeard seized the opportunity and punched Akainu Blood Shadow to the ground. The magma splash has no effect on Whitebeard, and the entangled hockey can only make him feel a little hot. Afterwards, the Blood Shadow erupted directly, forming a large amount of lava avalanche. Whitebeard originally wanted to pursue him, but he could only take a few steps back under the indiscriminate magma eruption. As a result, when he retreated, he just retreated to the side of Kong Yunchi who fell to the ground. Well, without hesitation, Whitebeard lifted it up, and then looked up. Akainu's Blood Shadow has gathered a human form from the bursting magma and jumped down. At first glance, it looks like a magma wave. But Whitebeard knew that there must be some powerful moves in the confrontation just now, which he wanted to exchange with himself. Immediately, the Naginata swung horizontally, and his eyes became murderous. As expected, Akainu's blood shadow hides a trick, Dark Hound, in the magma wave, and Whitebeard does not dodge it, but it is in his arms. But Whitebeard was staring at the face of Akainu's blood shadow, turning a blind eye to the coming Dark Hound until the last moment, at the cost of bearing the Dark Hound on his shoulder, he cut it off with a knife. This time, as if the space was cut open, with a large number of cracks, under the roar of Whitebeard, the blood shadow of Akainu was directly cut open from head to tail. The magma wave disappeared immediately when the blood shadow was fatally injured. And Whitebeard himself also withstood all the damage from Dark Hound on his left shoulder. A gap was bitten out by the Dark Hound, pierced through, and there were burnt marks and black smoke emitting from the bloody wound. This scene shocked the pupils of those present. Akainu Blood Shadow was killed. Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time. August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 36. Everyone shocked. Akainu, who is resurrected infinitely, how to fight. Akainu's blood shadow was cut open from beginning to end. Even if it were Akainu's real body, he wouldn't be able to survive. The real blow was fatal. The people of Red Hair Pirates couldn't help but exclaimed, Akainu blood shadow has been killed. The faces of the Marines and Momousagi showed fear. There is no doubt that Whitebeard, the strongest person in the world, has the ability to kill Admiral, but it was shocking to see it happen in front of Marine. Seeing a large amount of blood pouring out of Akainu's shadow, it then shriveled up like a deflated balloon. The captains and crew members of the Whitebeard pirates finally breathed a sigh of relief and cheered. Dad. The strongest. After all, this is Admiral-level combat power. Father Whitebeard has not fought such an opponent for many years, and he will kill him this time. However, the red-haired Shanks, Usopp, Rakiru, Gabu, a group of people looked at each other. Didn't Shaw En say that his Akainu blood shadow is the strongest in the world? The strongest. That's it. It's an exaggeration. That kid is just bragging. I guess they want to scare the Whitebeard pirates. Now that they've been slapped in the face, I'm afraid Whitebeard's people won't make it easy for them. One of the three Admiral blood shadows has fallen, and the Marine is not far from being defeated. Everyone in the Red Hair Pirates shook their heads. It's normal to talk about being the strongest in the world and then fight with all your might, only to be killed by who? No, something feels wrong. But at this time, Vice Captain Beckman was biting his cigarette butt and looking at Shaw En solemnly. The child's expression was very indifferent. He was not surprised at all that his blood shadow would be killed. Admiral-level blood shadow, don't you feel distressed? Why is there no reaction at all? Or, he did it on purpose. When Beckman guessed. Whitebeard inspected the injury on his shoulder, and then criticized Shaw En. You don't know how to fight at all, and you don't know how to use powerful abilities. This kind of ability is very outrageous. It is definitely not easy to create an Admiral-level combat power. As a result, an 8-year-old child looks very fierce when fighting, but in fact, if he finds an opportunity in the hands of a strong person, he can kill him. But it's no wonder. After all, Shaw En is only 8 years old, so Whitebeard turned to continue. Boy, you can discuss with the Marine next to you, 10 billion belly, a piece of territory controlled by Marine, and then kowtow to the dead and apologize. I can still let you go. Just saying. Suddenly, Whitebeard's words were interrupted, and the entire audience exclaimed in disbelief. It's resurrected. Everyone's attention was focused on the place where Akainu's blood shadow shriveled up, leaving only his cloak. In everyone's shocked eyes, it was visible to the naked eye that the blood that was about to dry up actually condensed into the cloak again, and then the blood shadow that looked like Akainu stood up again. With a bang, magma emerged and ignited the ground. Whitebeard turned his head and happened to see this scene, his eyes trembled involuntarily. How is this going? Resurrected. The jaws of the Red Hair Pirates and Whitebeard Pirates dropped to the ground in shock. Everyone had witnessed Whitebeard cut his head and body open with his own eyes before. The real Akainu cannot be resurrected, but my Akainu Blood Shadow Society can be resurrected infinitely. Facing Whitebeard's surprised look, Shaw En spoke without hesitation. The 4 emperors are very strong, and Whitebeard is stronger among them, but the combat power of the 3 admirals is not far behind them. Although they can't beat them, the Blood Shadow has unlimited resurrection, and the result is different. You Whitebeard can kill once, but can you kill a second time, a third time, a 100th time? It can consume you to death. This is the horror of CD-less resurrection. After hearing Shaw En's words, the whole place was silent for a moment, and after a while, the whole place exploded. Infinite resurrection. That's why it traded lives for lives just now. As this blood shadow immune to death, infinitely resurrected. Admiral-level combat power, immune to death. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Witnessing the resurrection of the blood shadow with your own eyes is outrageous enough, but when Shaw En said it, it was truly terrifying. Whether it was Marine, Whitebeard pirates, or Red Hair pirates, their scalps all felt numb. Shocked. Cheating is not so exaggerated, right? An admiral, or a replica of Akainu's combat power with unlimited resurrection ability. With such combat power, who in the world can suppress it? I'm afraid that even if Rox is resurrected, Roger won't be able to completely suppress this level of combat power even while he's still alive. No wonder Shaen En dared to claim to be invincible just now and dared to go to war with the Whitebeard pirates. He is not talking big words, but he has enough confidence. At this moment, even with his state of mind, Whitebeard couldn't help but change his expression when he heard the infinite resurrection. He stared straight at Shaen En, his eyes gradually becoming complicated. Behind Shaen En, Momousagi looked confused and was shocked inside. No wonder he is so confident. There is actually an Admiral Blood Shadow that can be infinitely resurrected. I told myself before that only my own shadow can have the ability to be infinitely resurrected. How come even the Akainu Blood Shadow can do it now? The shock brought about again and again makes Momousagi completely unable to understand Shaen En, and she can no longer even treat him as just an 8-year-old child. Gu la la la. At this time, Whitebeard laughed, but began to exert force on his hands with great momentum. That's really interesting. Infinite resurrection. I want to see if the ability you mentioned is true. Shaen En's words are probably not exaggerating, but infinite resurrection. Whitebeard doesn't believe in this evil. Even with multiple reorganizations and resurrections, his ability will definitely not be infinite. On the contrary, it seems that Shaen En is deliberately bluffing. Then you can keep trying. Shaen En smiled lightly. If you want to test whether it's true or not, then just give it a try, but let's see how awesome Whitebeard's physical strength is. Immediately, Whitebeard took action decisively. Bravely take a step towards the blood shadow of Akainu. Armament Haki. With the blessing of Conqueror's Haki, Whitebeard is like a demon. The momentum of just one step forward is like a huge wave, and the ground collapses. Invisibly, the power of shock has impacted Akainu's blood shadow. And Akainu blood shadow's whole body turned into a lava human form, and a punch exploded. A huge lava fist of more than 10 meters was formed, and collided with Whitebeard's impact. The scene suddenly exploded. A corner of this small island finally couldn't bear the cracks, and a large amount of seawater came in along the cracks and was evaporated. At the same time, Whitebeard struck like a demon with a naginata in one hand and a fist in the other, and actually tore the magma fist directly into the blood shadow's body. Immediately, he punched out, and the terrifying power covered a wide area, causing the blood shadow to fly backwards unavoidably. Following Whitebeard, he jumped up, holding the knife in both hands. The power of shock fruit wrapped around the blade, and he chased after him and slashed him down. Let me see how many times you can be resurrected. Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time. August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 37 Whitebeard raids Shaen En, guarded by double admirals. Whitebeard's knife is powerful and heavy. Slashed towards the blood shadow with absolute Haki suppression. Akainu's blood shadow blasted out a magma mass the size of a cannonball when he raised his hand to stop it, but it was easily broken by Whitebeard's blade. Facing the approaching Whitebeard, Blood Shadow took the initiative to greet him immediately, and still fell from the knife, but turned slightly sideways, waving his magma fist. The dog gnawed at the red lotus. It's an injury for injury move again. If it was a real person, he would never dare to take Whitebeard's tricks so forcefully, because he would definitely be the one who was injured the most, but Blood Shadow did not have this concern. Adhering to Shaen En's instructions, exchange injuries for injuries. Whitebeard's eyes were sharp. He knew the Blood Shadow's fighting style, but he had no choice but to further expand the halo of the shock ability on the knife. The moment the two sides contacted, Akainu's Blood Shadow's body was crushed and twisted, only the half of his body remained magma, and he was hit hard on the shoulder and chest, and the knife marks sank and burst out of plasma. And Whitebeard tilted his head, and most of the dog-nibbled red lotus dodged, and the rest were also hit on the shoulder. The magma flame burst, and Whitebeard clenched his teeth. In a short time, the two sides exchanged another move. The island was struck by Whitebeard and there were constant earthquakes, and the Blood Shadow was also pressed into the ground. Just when everyone thought that Whitebeard's angry blow would completely injure Blood Shadow, the next moment, the magma exploded like slurry, erupting from the ground. Immediately, it quickly condensed into a red body, and firmly grasped the handle of Whitebeard's naginata with one hand. Snort. Whitebeard snorted coldly as he looked at the bloody shadow that had been torn open by him again, and Armament Haki, which was wrapped like a liquid in his other hand, also grabbed the bloody shadow of Akainu directly. This time, he firmly grasped the Blood Shadow's body and strangled his neck. A white halo erupts from the palm of Armament Haki. Whitebeard was full of murderous intent, and wanted to pinch Blood Shadow's neck directly. Immediately afterwards, the white halo expanded, forming a terrifying explosion of vibration force. With a bang, the ground under the two of them cracked directly, adding another dilapidated place flooded by seawater. However, what Whitebeard didn't expect was that Akainu Blood Shadow could use magma with Haki and his ability. Dark Hound. Rapidly extending the lava-formed arm and turning it into a dog's head, when the power of shock fruit burst out from Whitebeard's palm, it hit Whitebeard's chest. I want to change my injury again. Whitebeard didn't want the Blood Shadow to succeed, but now he couldn't give up the opportunity, and resisted the risk of being pierced by Akainu decisively. However, The people watching the battle watched the two sides use thrilling ultimate moves to fight fiercely, and many people watched with cold sweat. At this moment, Whitebeard let go of the body of Akainu's blood shadow, and retreated with a blood hole the size of a fist. The blood shadow of Akainu was once again found by Whitebeard to forcibly kill him, just like a deflated balloon drying up. Watching the death scene of the blood shadow, Whitebeard didn't even take a breath, let alone the bleeding part of his body, and directly punched the place where the blood shadow fell. Daddy killed Akainu's shadow again. Yay. Yeah, didn't you see that Dad got hurt again? Marco, let Captain Marco go up for treatment. Don't worry, see if that thing will come back to life. The members of the Whitebeard pirates were very happy to kill the blood shadow again. In addition, Whitebeard deliberately destroyed the corpse with one hand, so I don't think Shaen can really continue to revive it. But in the end, someone didn't even speak, and amidst the dust, a cloud of liquid could be seen gathering with the naked eye. The blood shadow of Akainu propped up his cloak again, the scorching magma reappeared, and stood up from the scattered dust to face Whitebeard. Hee. Blood shadow's resurrection doesn't depend on destroyed blood. Seeing this, Shaen let out a hee from the bottom of her heart. This is infinite resurrection in the true sense. FK. He's really resurrected again. Dad, he has 2 wounds on his body that are bleeding. If it's really. How can we fight? Dad will be tired too. The members of the Whitebeard pirates swallowed their throats, their eyes wandered over Shui Ying and Shaen, and they began to become frightened. The immortal admiral is also the lava fruit, one of the most offensive Logia fruits. If what this kid said is true, it's simply too scary. Everyone in the red hair pirates frowned and looked complicated and shocked for a while. Did you see? Blood Shadow's resurrection is really easy. Even if it's not infinite, I'm afraid it won't be a problem to be resurrected 180 times. Beckman took a deep breath and expressed his observation solemnly. Hearing Beckman's prediction, Usopp, Rakiru and others all had sweat dripping from their foreheads, and couldn't help but say, what a scary kid. You're still a kid, you're a little monster. Everyone at Red Hair Pirates is completely impressed by Shaen. Even the red-haired Shanks looked at the situation and couldn't help but exclaimed, this ability is really heaven-defying. Shaen, is this child really suitable at Marine? Shanks even wanted to kidnap Shaen with Whitebeard. But just thinking about it, Shanks knew that no matter how he moved Shaen, Marine would go crazy, thus triggering a balance between the 3 major forces. Whitebeard also felt a pressure from the bottom of his heart. That's right, it's stress. All of the 3 Marine admirals are Logia, who is a natural disaster, not to mention the shadow of Akainu, who is immune to death. Beckman could see it, and so could Whitebeard. Blood Shadow's resurrection was easy. Gu la la la, interesting. With a cross of the Naginata, Whitebeard regained his invincible expression. Immediately, he strode towards the blood shadow of Akainu, bursting with speed. Akainu's blood shadow suddenly turned red and turned into a flowing form of magma. One of his fists was already preparing moves to exchange wounds with Whitebeard at close range. But at this moment, Whitebeard suddenly changed his goal and headed straight for Shaen. Whitebeard is going to surprise Shaen. Red-haired Shanks, Beckman and others were not surprised by Whitebeard's change of tactics. Even if they encounter such a situation, they will first subdue the ability user, and only then can they face the enemy in the right direction. As for Marine, everyone was shocked. Whitebeard actually bypassed the blood shadow of Akainu and killed him directly. Not good. Momousagi was even more frightened and quickly stepped forward to catch Shaen and retreated to avoid it. But what she didn't know was that Shaen, who was facing Whitebeard, seemed very calm on the surface. Although I was already cursing in my heart. Damn it, I'm really here to catch you. Facing Haki of 4 emperors, Shaen will still feel a little nervous for the first time. But I'm not afraid because I'm already prepared. Before Whitebeard could get close, a laser beam and freezing air appeared, intercepting Whitebeard in the middle of the collision. It's Aokiji Blood Shadow. Kizaru Blood Shadow. Filu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time. August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 38 Unconditional Release. Sorry, I don't want to leave. The dazzling red rays and the cold air that freezes the moisture in the air intersect to stop Whitebeard's attack. Well, Whitebeard's action was interrupted, his eyes glanced sharply, and in the blink of an eye he realized that there was also a powerful attack coming from behind. When I turned around, I saw exploding magma rushing towards my face, burning with fierce flames, and the temperature was terrifying. Seeing that attacking Shaen was not feasible, and instead was surrounded by 3 admirals, Whitebeard made a prompt decision and punched out with his backhand. The cracks in the atmosphere spread, and the power of shock fruit smashed the magma fist of Akainu Blood Shadow. At the same time, he quickly jumped back to avoid the siege of the 3 blood shadows. Aokiji Blood Shadow and Kizaru Blood Shadow did not take the opportunity to pursue, but quickly stood beside Shaen to protect her. Drought Blood Shadow, Momousagi Blood Shadow, and Momousagi himself all quickly approached. Shaen, are you okay? Momousagi is still a little worried about whether Shaen will be frightened by Whitebeard. After all, in the eyes of others, Shaen still has the body of an 8-year-old. However, when she took a closer look, Xia En, who was guarded by the four blood shadows, showed no sign of being frightened by Haki. She was very calm and composed. It's okay, don't worry. Xia En smiled slightly, and then turned her attention to Whitebeard. That look seemed to say, I knew you would do this. In the field, Whitebeard, who was forced to retreat, turned around and continued to fight with Akainu blood shadow. When he noticed Xia En's eyes, he actually smiled. Glalala, Sengoku, Garp, the two old guys seem to be very happy that Marine has turned out a monster like you. Whitebeard had to admit that Xia En was very good and resourceful, and she simply did not have the mind of an 8-year-old child. Your reaction is not bad. I know that to capture the thief first, I will certainly not ignore myself. Xia En was praising with a mature look. Those who didn't know thought this was some old legend talking to Whitebeard. However, everyone present did not dare to underestimate Xia En's strength, although it seemed that Xia En, who controlled the blood shadow battle, was very weak. But after Whitebeard's probing, the captains at the back finally reacted, and each of them locked their eyes fiercely on the guarded Xia En. Kill him. Those blood shadows will be useless. Yeah, just get rid of him. Superior. Immediately, everyone in the Whitebeard pirates reacted and all took action. Marco, Beasta, Josie, Bramank, and the captains of the Ice Witch all picked up their weapons, broke out Haki, and ran towards Xia En's location. With Aokiji and Kizaru guarding the two Admiral blood shadows, and Xia En is just a child, they still have a good chance of succeeding. Marco, Jose, stop it. Seeing that a bigger battle was about to break out, or even a war, the red-haired Shanks quickly shouted to stop it and rushed out of the boat. If the real fire breaks out, everything will become out of control. This is not the original intention of the red-haired man, who just watched the tragedy happen. Red hair. This matter has nothing to do with you. Marco, Josie and others ignored the enemy ship's captain's restraints and relentlessly attacked Xia En. No matter what, he is just an 8-year-old child. What do you think this is? Shanks frowned. He couldn't easily stir up disputes, so he wanted to persuade from the moral high ground. As a result, Whitebeard, who was fighting with Akainu's blood shadow, laughed loudly. The red-haired kid, do you think he is just a doll? A guy like this, who can stand up to 3 admirals in combat power alone, is no kid. Whitebeard. Shanks gritted his teeth secretly, and in a blink of an eye, he saw that Xia En was not panicking at all, so he stopped disrupting the situation for the time being. Quick, brothers. Contain the Admiral combat power. Beasta held 2 swords in his hands and was shouting to command the large group of people behind him. Because the most difficult thing at the moment is Aokiji blood shadow and Kizaru blood shadow. If they are contained, Xia En can be solved at once. The members of the strongest pirate group are really fierce. Xia En was really unfazed and even commented with interest. He has 2 infinite dead soldiers to protect him, so he doesn't have to worry at all. In fact, Xia En's plan so far is not to rely on Blood Shadow to defeat the Whitebeard pirates, because that is impossible. The purpose of Zuying fighting with all his strength is to delay the arrival of the large army. And with the 5 Blood Shadows, it is not a problem to support Sengoku, Garp and others. On the broken ground of battle, Aokiji Blood Shadow and Kizaru Blood Shadow took the initiative to greet the many captains of the Whitebeard pirates. The power of freezing gave frozen fruit a great boost after the seawater poured in along the ravine, and the Marine Admiral's strength did not put much pressure on him to delay Marco's level. It can be seen that neither Chaozi nor Yi Zhang and others can break through the frozen realm. On the other side, Kizaru Blood Shadow bombed continuously during the battle with Beasta, Marco and others, firing powerful laser beams. Even when the captains were charging hard, they directly hit the 8-foot Magatama. A wide range of light spots fell, destroying the foothold of the Whitebeard pirates, and the offensive was stalled and unable to move forward. At the rear, Momousagi Blood Shadow, and Drought Blood Shadow were still guarding Xia En. The regrouped Marine lined up and was ready. Even if Marco finds a chance to fly over, he will definitely be beaten back. Xia En even looked at the exciting battles on the battlefield and secretly thought that it would be more comfortable to just sit and watch with a cup of milk tea. Seeing Xia En's leisurely expression, the captains of the Whitebeard pirates all had ugly expressions. This naughty kid, it's hard to see that you can't hit it, okay. We haven't been able to rush over yet. Josie looked fierce, shook off the ice shavings from his body, and said through gritted teeth. Even Aokiji and Kizaru's shadow can't stop us for long. Marco was persevering and continued to face off against Kizaru's blood shadow, speaking in a solemn voice. Logically speaking, this is indeed the case, and Xia En will definitely be affected if the battle continues. But at this moment, Whitebeard struck the sword and sent Akainu's blood shadow flying again. He turned around and saw the scene of the captains leading people to attack Xia En, and a trace of helplessness flashed in his eyes. Then he made up his mind and shouted loudly, Marco. Beasta, stop it first. Then he said coldly to Xia En, now we are released unconditionally, you can leave. He knew that Xia En Momousagi and his team would not be able to be taken down for a while, and as time passed, Marine support would arrive at any time. Whitebeard has no fear, but he also has to consider his family. When Marco, Josie, Beasta and other captains heard this. They were immediately filled with reluctance, but they had to listen to what their father had to say. Xia En smiled when she heard this. Unconditional release. Sorry, old man Whitebeard, I don't want to leave now. Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time. August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 39. 8-year-old kid threatens Whitebeard, never seen before. Beckman takes the initiative to give away territory. The current situation is that the Whitebeard pirates cannot take down their side in a short time. With the 3 Admiral Blood Shadows around, it was simply impossible to do it unless the fish was dead and the net was broken, but that was obviously impossible now. So Xia En was very calm and said frankly that she didn't want to leave. I don't need this piece of land, but you must give me 3 more pieces of land that you control. If you do it, I will take people away immediately. Xia En is now like a little fox, looking at everyone in the Whitebeard pirates with a smile and making her own request. If you don't want to be in trouble or be entangled by the Marine Army, you can either leave by yourself or agree to the request. This time, Whitebeard was really angry. An angry look appeared on his originally peaceful face. Each generation is getting stronger than the last generation. You little brat of Marine, do you think I, Whitebeard, really can't do anything to you? Marco, Beasta, Josie and other captains were even more annoyed and angry when they saw that Xia En was not grateful but was making more and more demands. Dad, stop talking nonsense to this little brat. Kill him right there. How dare you be so arrogant in front of the Whitebeard pirates? No matter what, let him see his strength clearly. We are not afraid, Dad. Even if Marine Sengoku comes today, we will fight them to the end. These captains shouted one after another, saying that it didn't matter if they risked their lives to fight today, and Marine should not be allowed to be so arrogant. In fact, let alone the Whitebeard pirates, no one present was not surprised. The red-haired Shanks couldn't help but cover his face and have a headache, and thought to himself, he is not only a monster child, but also a problem child. Whitebeard has let you go, and he still wants to take over the territory. This is trouble, is he iron? Are your hearts going to war? For people like the 4 emperors, reputation and prestige are very important. Xia En did this because he could delay the war when Marine's support was approaching. The red-haired man could not think of any other reason. However, this war cannot start yet. What a headache. However, at this time, Xia En still smiled and said, it's just the territory, Whitebeard, it's your choice whether to keep the territory here or give up 3 pieces. Just saying. Momousagi next to him was already ashamed and frightened. Okay, as he continued talking, Whitebeard became really angry. She doesn't think Whitebeard has this ability. You know, Sengoku and Garp have emphasized many times that this is a man with the power to destroy the world. But Xia En is really fierce. She dares to threaten the 4 emperors or Whitebeard. Except for the top few, only Xia En can do it in person. Of course, at this time, Whitebeard was angry and laughed, but the atmosphere became colder and colder, and his demon-like aura became more intense. It seems that a terrible earthquake is about to happen next moment. Everyone in Marine was sweating coldly, not daring to let Xia En restrain, let alone being unafraid of Whitebeard. Even the 5 Blood Shadows and Momousagi were ready to fight at any time. Marco, Beasta, Josie and other captains gritted their teeth and the battle was about to break out. At this time, Beckman's figure fell from the pirate ship, and he helplessly walked between the 2 parties together with the red-haired Shanks. Wait, Xia En, we red-hair pirates are willing to give up 3 pieces of territory to you. As soon as they came over, Beckman and Shanks looked at each other, and finally Beckman spoke. Everyone present on both sides was surprised when they heard this. Marco, Josie and the others were stunned. They didn't understand why the red-hair pirates came out to rescue them. Whitebeard frowned, but did not refuse after a while. He knew that this was the step up to which the red hair was coming, and it seemed that he didn't want the 2 sides to start a real war over this. And Xia En was also surprised. This red-hair pirates sent 3 pieces of land. What do you mean? But everyone has their own thoughts, and as long as it's 4 emperors' territory, it doesn't matter to me. Xia En smiled slightly and said, are you sure? It's not a scam, right? He, red-hair pirates, wants to give favors to Whitebeard and himself, so let's see what happens next. Seeing that Xia En did not continue to fight forcefully, Beckman thought to himself that he really wanted territory. What on earth did a guy like a brat want to fight for territory? Following the question to Xia En, he said bluntly, the 3 pieces of land were all snatched from Kaido not long ago. You can take it if you want. Whether you can hold it depends on your own ability. Kaido, okay, I'll take it then. When Xia En heard that it was from Beisho, she immediately agreed. No one else, because compared to Whitebeard and the 2 red-haired forces, Kaido himself was completely offended. Anyway, sooner or later he has to face off against Kaido. As for Whitebeard, that's pretty much it. When he develops well in the future, it doesn't matter whether he is the strongest in the world or not, it's all up to him. Good. Beckman smiled and nodded to Xia En, took out a marked chart and threw it over. Xia En took it and glanced at it. After no problem, She nodded with satisfaction, then turned and left. Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates stared closely at Xia En, very unwillingly, and seemed to be considering whether to let him go like this. But Whitebeard suddenly said, "This matter is not over yet, kid. Then let's talk next time, bye." Xia En didn't even look back and responded in a childish voice. Walking to the beach, Aokiji's blood shadow froze directly to form an ice road. A group of Marines walked along the road and left the place calmly. Damn it, am I dreaming? Just like that, you left the hands of the two Sea Emperors. Xia En Rear Admiral is really a monster. A group of Marines didn't feel the chills on their backs until they were far away. They suddenly started talking in fearful voices, walking on the ice road while looking at Xia En at the front. Xia En, who is among the 5 Blood Shadow Guards, is particularly admired by the Marines who followed her this time. That's the Whitebeard pirates. They had a fight and left with 3 pieces of territory. Is this what a child can do? Momousagi looked back at the broken island that had become a black spot behind the ice road, with an indescribable color flashing in his eyes. It's like a dream. We, with our little strength, managed to escape from Whitebeard's hands calmly under the protection of Shaen En. Mr. Kizaru, your brother is more legendary than you. Momousagi couldn't help but be amazed. Momousagi knew that what he thought was definitely correct. What happened today will definitely become a legendary story in Shaen En's resume. Filu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time. August 10th to August 20th. Chapter 40 Whitebeard. Marine has a monster. After the battle, most of the island was in ruins and after Xia En and his party left, only the red hair pirates and the Whitebeard pirates were left. Dad, is it really okay to let Xia En go like this? The unwilling Marcos and others couldn't help but tell Whitebeard after Xia En and others left. I'm never afraid of war. Whitebeard looked at Xia En and his group who had disappeared and said softly. If there is a war with Marine, the gains outweigh the losses for the current Whitebeard pirates, especially the defection of Teach, which makes Whitebeard very uneasy. Therefore, when the Blood Shadow could not be attacked in a short period of time, and knowing that Marine had support, the scene of stopping the fight with Xia En happened. It's not that Marco and others don't understand, it's just that they are holding their breath. At this time, Whitebeard turned to look at the red-haired Shanks and Beckman and said, "What conditions do you want?" For no reason, they took out 3 snatched sights and gave them to the steps. Whitebeard received the favor, but he didn't believe they would be for no reason. There must be something you want. Beckman seemed to have been waiting for Whitebeard to ask this question, and said bluntly, "Our condition is actually very simple, that is to recall your second team captain, Fire Fist Ace." As he spoke, Shanks the Redhead nodded at Whitebeard. Their purpose has always been to prevent a bigger war from happening. After hearing this, Usopp, Rakiru and other cadres and crew members, who were initially confused as to why they wanted to use their territory to rescue the Whitebeard pirates, suddenly understood. Vice Captain Ben Beckman used a clever trick to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Because the red hair pirates never actually need territory to show their power, and they don't like to seize territory. For example, the territory that Kaido seized was purely to protect the enslaved weak. Giving it to Marine is no different from keeping it in your own hands. It just so happens that you can sell it to Whitebeard as a favor on the spot, so that he can recall the Fire Fist Ace that chased Blackbeard. After all this effort, this is still the case. Whitebeard was slightly moved. If the two sides still met to discuss this matter, they would have turned their heads a long time ago. But after Xia En made such a move, he also saw the seriousness of the red-haired group, and began to think about it. Although I don't know exactly what purpose Teach has, his hidden strength and ambition are absolutely real. When Shanks said this, he still had a very solemn tone. I'll contact him and get him back. Whitebeard stared straight at the seriousness on Shanks' face, and finally chose to agree after thinking about it. It's just that he didn't have much confidence in recalling Ace, after all, he chased after him impulsively at the time. You won't regret it. Seeing this, Shanks, Beckman and others breathed a sigh of relief. It's really not easy to persuade this stubborn old man. At this point, the red hair pirates boarded and left under the leadership of Shanks. Today's incident is really outrageous. I didn't expect such a monster to appear in Marine. On the boat, Usopp couldn't help looking at the dilapidated island far away, and sighed. The storms of the times are getting bigger and bigger. Shanks also shook his head slightly. Today almost directly triggered an all-out war between Marine and Whitebeard. Yes, Marine has this little monster Xia En, so he is definitely going to make big moves. I hope the world can still maintain a period of peace. Beckman said with some emotion in a prophetic tone. Perhaps soon, they will not be immune to being involved in the war. The red-haired man looked at the sea in the distance and said, perhaps the predicted day will really come early. That little monster is only 8 years old. He controls the shadows of the 3 admirals and will definitely be the pillar of Marine in the future. That's why Marine cares so much. I really don't know how he developed the fruit ability, but he can master it so easily, and it also has the ability to be reborn. Damn it, the admiral is reborn with combat power. The Whitebeard pirates returned to the Moby Dick one after another, but everyone still couldn't help but have lingering fears for Shaen En. If we meet such a guy next time, who can resist him except Dad and the captains? Whitebeard also heard the discussion among the crew members, and was thinking about the outrageous power of Shaen En. He was a little puzzled that he had never heard of the Blood Shadow ability. Marco cooperated with other ship doctors to treat the injured Whitebeard and others. Marco, contact Ace and get him back. At this time, Whitebeard spoke. Dad, Ace. Dot may not listen. Marco said with a sigh. Tell him what happened and teach his situation. He must come back first. Whitebeard said seriously, and the uneasiness in his heart has not disappeared since the red hair came to him. Yes, Dad. Just as Marco agreed, Whitebeard continued. Also, ask people to pay attention to Marine's Shaen En. Pay attention to his whereabouts at all times and contact multiple people to keep an eye on him. Report to me immediately if there is any movement. Now it's not just Teach's side, Marine's Shaen En is even more shocking after what happened today, so opponents must pay close attention to it. Dad, this is an arrangement that has never happened. Why should the Whitebeard pirates keep an eye on someone other than the four emperors? Marco was surprised at his father's choice. Marco, I have a very bad feeling. Whitebeard's face became a little ugly. It seems like something big is about to happen. After the battle, on the other side, anxious naval headquarters executives were standing on the bow of the ship, constantly urging the navigators to speed up, striving to rush to support Shaen En as quickly as possible. At this time, the scouts standing on the observation deck discovered the situation with binoculars and quickly reported to the senior officials who were sent down. Marshal Sengoku, the ice surface is found on the right side of the front. The people on it. Daughter Shaen En Rear Admiral, Momousagi Vice Admiral. They have no warships. What? How they look. Sengoku, Kizaru and others quickly looked to the right. Of course, from this distance, there is no ice or people on the sea in the distance. So Kizaru asked the scouts above, can you see clearly? Is it them? Are my brother and the others injured? Injured. Akainu's eyes narrowed, and he said anxiously, look carefully. Is Shaen En's arm broken or bleeding? Because they were being chased by Whitebeard not long ago and were now still on the ice without the warship, Akainu suspected that the cost of their escape would be high. What kind of broken arm is bleeding? Sengoku. Garp looked at the two of them speechlessly, but he also looked at the scout and asked. For a moment, the scout was under great pressure, sweating profusely, and his hands holding the binoculars were shaking. After looking again, he quickly said, no, it's okay. They look fine. Philu's 18th anniversary brand upgrade gives back to readers. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time. August 10th to August 20th.